Chapter 704. Half an hour later. Yu Yang, who was covered with cuts and bruises, ran out sadly. Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia went up to him and asked curiously, "What happened? How did you get injured like this?" The clown, Lionheart King, Scarlet Emperor and Ancient Demon King's incarnation are just fleeting clouds. Even if they are formed from God's power, I am not afraid of them at all. However, maybe it is my psychological barrier, there is a Ji-Zun inside. No matter what, I can't deny her, so I was beaten up badly. I really couldn't take it anymore, so I ran out to take a breather. Now, I understand how abnormal it is for the prison emperor to stay in there for a day. Yu Yang was very depressed. He originally thought that even if he couldn't catch up to Shui Wuxiao, he wouldn't be any worse than Princess Sisai, who knew that he would have to quit in less than half an hour. Half an hour is already very good. I didn't even last a minute in the previous few trials. I had to go through thousands of trials before I could understand the domain of power. Princess Sisai saw Yu Yang's depressed expression and her heart softened. She quickly comforted him. "Let's rest for a while and challenge again later." Shui Wuxia knew that this was normal. Without going through hardships, one wouldn't be able to truly improve. Yu Yang gathered his courage and entered the death gate again. Another half an hour passed. Yu Yang, who was crying out strangely, once again escaped from death in a sorry state. This time, his left face was swollen and his clothes were torn into pieces. If it wasn't for the Nirvana flame armor, he would have become a naked beggar. Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia naturally encouraged him. They used body fusion to heal his injuries and massaged his shoulders like a wife, wiping his sweat and feeding him water. Princess Sisai looked at the timer and praised him. 5 minutes more than before. Continue to work hard, you will reach the 1 hour mark very soon. Shui Wuxia objected, at least 3 hours. Actually, as long as you persevere, nothing is impossible. She didn't want Yu Yang to spend less time at the gate of death than she did. Furthermore, he did not wish for the other party to comprehend a domain that was inferior to his. Yu Yang could not show any weakness in the face of the two girls' ardent expectations. He stood up and continued to cultivate in the gate of death once, twice, thrice. He had already lost count of how many times he had let the supreme martial artist inside attack him. However, he was adamant on staying inside for at least 5 minutes every time. There was no time limit of 1 hour, nor was there a time limit of 3 hours. Yu Yang's idea was to persist until he completely denied that Ji-Zun formed from divine power and divine will, and completely denied her existence. If he couldn't even pass such a small threshold, how could he even talk about comprehending a domain? What Yu Yang needed wasn't as simple as persisting for an hour, nor was it as simple as comprehending a domain. What he needed was to be like a paragon, to have a supreme will, to be able to negate everything, to look down on all living things, to achieve the supreme will of a paragon. He might have already done it 100 times, but Yu Yang felt that this was the 101st time that he was beaten down by the supreme martial artist inside. All the real illusions inside could be negated, including the hundreds of paragons that were created. Even divine will was unable to affect Yu Yang's paragon heart. Only the first formed paragon could not be negated. When she raised her right hand and condensed the destructive black pieces, Yu Yang had a feeling of death. If he didn't escape, he would definitely die here. Should he escape like before, or continue to stay here and negate her existence? If he died, what would happen to Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai? What would happen to Fourth Mother, Bing Er, and Shuang Er? There was also the secret of the pitiful guy's mother that he hadn't solved, and he hadn't helped Queen Vivian Li escape from the Black Hole Seal. He hadn't nurtured Little One Li, Duo and the others, and he had even failed to live up to the expectations of the Heavenly Sword Goddess. Was he really going to die here? In the end, was he still an ordinary otaku? Even with the fortuitous encounter of meeting the old Taoist, even with the help of the Phoenix Sisters. Unable to go against the heavens, unable to create a life that belonged to him? Was everything going to be annihilated under this black peace? Yu Yang felt that he had entered a state of mind that he had never thought about before. In the face of death, this was the first time he calmly thought about it. It was not fear or regret, but a kind of rereading of life and past experiences. In this rereading, he reflected and made new discoveries. However, he knew that no matter how much he learned, it was useless because he was about to die. Should he escape? No, if he couldn't even face death calmly, and couldn't even negate a paragon that he knew was fake, he would probably be killed by Jiu Shao, Void, and other great leaders of Heaven Realm in one move if he went up to the Heaven Realm. He had to pass the test of death to have a future. Yu Yang didn't know what to do, but he decided to stay and face it calmly, no longer running away. "Why don't you run away?" Ji Zun suddenly stopped and asked. "You can speak?" Yu Yang was shocked. The Ji Zun who hit him was real? That was too dizzy. She was a real person, how could she use her will to negate it? "Because your situation is a little special, in order to let you better experience and face death, I used this method." Ji Zun turned and left. "Not only did you pass the test of the Death Gate, you also passed the test of Ji Zun's will. Comprehend it well, you should have a lot of insights." Damn. Yu Yang woke up from his stupor. Previously, Ji Zun had been using her supreme will to suppress Yu Yang's will, causing him to have the illusion of death in an instant. Only now did Yu Yang realize that it was no wonder that the Phoenix Sisters didn't come out to rescue him. The reason was that it was just a feeling created by Ji Zun's supreme will. It was a test to force Yu Yang to face death and comprehend death. Ordinary pre-celestials didn't need it, but as a pre-celestial sovereign, he had to see through the major barrier of life and death. If he couldn't see through life and death, then he wouldn't be able to have the firmest sovereign's heart and form the supreme sovereign's will. In the future, the power of law that he controlled would also be greatly affected without the supreme sovereign's will to control it, although he hadn't reached the divine sovereign yet. However, Ji Zun, she had already paved a path for Yu Yang to step into the divine sovereign. Comprehending the domain was the first step, possessing the sovereign's heart and supreme will was the second step, and mastering the law was the third step. Yu Yang touched the slightly swollen scar on his face, and his heart was suddenly enlightened. Why did Ji Zun wait in the world of the Death Gate before? It turned out that she had been waiting for him. She never explained what she had done for him, but he had never carefully understood the painstaking effort she had put in. "I will work hard. If I don't comprehend the main domain, I won't go out." Yu Yang looked in the direction where Ji Zun disappeared. Even though she had already left and could no longer hear his voice, Yu Yang still couldn't help but shout out the emotions in his heart. He felt that he was an idiot. In fact, this painstaking effort should have been reflected on the heavenly sword goddess a long time ago. Why didn't he realize it now? 1 day passed. Yu Yang didn't come out. 2 days, 3 days. Yu Yang had already entered the world of the Death Gate to cultivate for 3 days, but he still hadn't come out. Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai were a little worried. It wasn't that they didn't have confidence in him, but that he had been in there for too long. They really wanted to enter the Death Gate to take a look, but they were afraid that he was at an important juncture in his comprehension. If they went in, they would disturb his cultivation. The 2 girls had been suppressing the longing in their hearts and waiting for him with great spirit. The Night Empress would come every day to comfort him. Then she left. On the 3rd day, she and Ji Zun came together, giving Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai a big fright. Could it be that something had happened to him? "Don't be nervous, he's fine. I just sensed that he was about to succeed, so I came to take a look." "Do you need 3 days to comprehend? What an incredible domain!" The Night Empress' voice was filled with anticipation, causing Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai to be pleasantly surprised. "Yes, I'm out." Ji Zun waited for a while, nodded, and turned to leave. She seemed to already know about Yu Yang's situation. 10 seconds after Ji Zun left, a strange and mysterious energy slowly overflowed from the Death Gate, filling the entire Death Gate. Even Raging Flame and Drunken Cat, who were on the Life Gate's altar, could clearly sense this kind of energy. They looked over in surprise. Originally, no energy could pass through the space of the Gate of Life and Death. Only divine power and divine will could exist here. Now, the strange energy that overflowed from the Death Gate could easily pass through space and form an energy field of its own. Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai ran down the steps of the altar. They stood at the forefront, waiting for Yu Yang to return. A man whose entire body was emitting tens of thousands of golden lights slowly walked out. In his hand there was a magical pearl that was surrounded by 7 colors. The pearl, in the instant before it left the Death Gate, was still absorbing the divine power and divine will inside. It was only when Yu Yang took his first step into the altar that it gradually stopped. Shui Wuxia's sharp eyes discovered that the pearl was the mysterious pearl that Yu Yang had obtained in the 12 zodiac temples. Unexpectedly, it could also absorb divine will and divine power like the spirit of her ancient book. Moreover, this mysterious pearl absorbed more than one type of divine will and divine power. On Yu Yang's body, another strange light flashed. It was the reward for Yu Yang winning the Death Arena, the divine light that the square divine steel projected onto Yu Yang's body. At this moment, the divine light shot out from Yu Yang's body and entered the shining 7-colored mystical pearl. The miraculous divine light, divine power, and divine will fused together within the pearl. It formed a dazzling divine pearl. Yu Yang cut his finger and dripped a drop of his blood on it. An energy that was even more mysterious and vast than the Prison Emperor Divine Sword or even the Prison Emperor Divine Seal Sword into the sky. With Yu Yang's will, it enveloped the entire Gate of Life and Death. At this moment there was only one kind of will in the world, and that was Yu Yang. The power of the laws of the Gate of Life and Death seemed to have retreated at this moment. Even if Raging Flame and Drunken Cat ran over, it did not have any effect. Perhaps this was the first time in history. Divine equipment, so this is how divine equipment are born. Night Empress, who was hiding in the starry sky domain, was faintly discernible. Under the shroud of Yu Yang's will, her starry sky domain had almost lost its invisibility effect. However, Night Empress had forgotten all of this as she murmured excitedly, "The primogenitor's origin orb, the origin of divine light, the fusion of several divine powers and divine will, and the birth of blood, produced a brand new creation orb. That's right, this is the creation orb. It is one with the creation domain that he comprehended under the will of the sovereign." Phew! Yu Yang did not hear Night Empress's voice, nor did he see her beautiful figure. When his mind left the mysterious realm of the divine equipment's birth, his legs had unknowingly stepped onto the first step of the altar and left the Gate of Death. Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai could no longer hold it in. They pounced on him and hugged him tightly. That indescribable joy could only be hugged with all their might. Only then could they barely express it. Divine equipment. Yu Yang finally had his first divine equipment. Moreover, it was a divine equipment that completely belonged to him. In fact, this was a divine equipment that he had created himself and would grow with him for the rest of his life. Creation Orb. Chapter 705. The creation orb turned into a ball of colorful light and entered Yu Yang's grimoire. It seemed to be absorbing more energy with the help of the Halo world. Yu Yang didn't have the time to care about it for the time being. He was more focused on familiarizing himself with the creation domain that he had just comprehended. "What's the use of your domain?" Princess Sisai was the most anxious to know. "I guess it should be similar to the Gate of Life and Death." Shui Wuxia was indeed the smartest among the girls. Although she didn't guess 100% correctly, she could still guess a little. Her words caused Yu Yang to be surprised, but he immediately nodded in agreement. "That's right, The creation domain that I comprehended was formed based on the gate of life and death and the will of the sovereign. In the long run, the laws of the Gemini Temple and the Virgin Temple of the 12 zodiac palaces are all related. There's also the death arena and many more. Almost everything I've experienced, I've thought about it again, rethought it, reread my own life, and then created a domain. That's true. Your domain is all-encompassing and extremely complicated. Furthermore, it's only the beginning. Everything hasn't been formed yet. Queen Knight agreed. It's precisely because of this that your domain is the creation domain. Hurry up and find a place to test it. Princess Sisai couldn't wait to see how powerful Yu Yang's newly comprehended creation domain was. You guys go. Queen Knight prepared to leave. I want to ask, why didn't the War God Guard sisters transform into humanoid divine soldier when they were assisting me in battle? They were still in human form. Yu Yang remembered that when he was fighting in the tomb and secret passageway of the guiding shrine, the two sisters, War God Guard Yao and Feather, had transformed into humanoid sword and humanoid bow respectively. However, they hadn't completely transformed like the blood-winged angel. Transforming into a humanoid divine soldier is not something that can be done immediately. You guys are just the beginning. As your cultivation increases, they will slowly awaken. Just like how we comprehend domain power, they also need to comprehend the perfect human divine weapon state. Moreover, the War God Guard sisters have inherited the power of the lovebird and have not fully grasped it. As they continue to fight, they will become more and more tacit with you, and in the end, they will become one with the human divine weapon. Don't be anxious. With the power of the lovebird, their future is limitless. You have to spend more effort to nurture them. The Night Empress explained softly to make Yu Yang feel at ease. Then, she floated away. Although Raging Flames also wanted to know the use of Yu Yang's creation domain, she was unwilling to leave just like that. He decided to stay. He had been cultivating in the gate of life and death. For the time being, the death gate was not something she could cultivate. At the very least, she had to stay at the life gate for an hour. Drunken Cat also stayed behind. Her progress was even better than Raging Flames. The current her could already last for more than 10 minutes. Compared to the first 3 minutes, she had improved quite a bit. Moreover, she also knew that Yu Yang would bring Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai with him. The young couple would probably be lovey-dovey for a while. If she followed them, wouldn't that disturb Yu Yang's sweet moment? Before he left, impatience came with Anan and Yu Bing. When they heard that Yu Yang had comprehended a new domain and wanted to find an enemy to try, they immediately became interested and wanted to follow along to watch the show. Big Brother is so amazing. In just 3 days, he successfully walked out of the gate of death, comprehended a new domain, and obtained the divine artifact creation orb. In comparison, I'm too weak. I cultivated with the Night Empress for more than half a year, but in the end, I just crossed the gate of life and fought out of the gate of death in less than a minute. After hearing this, Yu Bing stuck out her tongue. You've already crossed the gate of life? When Raging Flame heard this, she felt as if the sky had exploded with a bolt of lightning. How old was this little girl? How could she be stronger than herself? Actually, crossing the gate of life is very simple. You just have to pretend that it doesn't exist. I didn't understand it before, but after I understood it, a day passed. Yu Bing kindly introduced her experience to Raging Flame. Raging Flames felt as if her face was filled with tears. She, who was at the 5th level of Heaven stage, was actually unable to compare to a little girl at the 2nd level of Earth stage. Although the Earth stage in Tong Tian Tower was a little different, the Earth stage here was called an 8, and they all had summoning grimoire, but the difference couldn't be so great, right? Perhaps seeing that Raging Flame's situation was a little low, Inan, who had the best relationship with Raging Flame, comforted her in a low voice. Big sis, don't mind us. We have specially cultivated the spiritual force field. If you had trained like us, you might have already crossed the gate of life and death, and reached the standard of the trial. Raging Flame knew that she was comforting her, but her mood was a little better. All right, there wasn't a single normal person in Tong Tian Tower. It wasn't a big deal for her, a heaven stage level 5, to be defeated by them. Seeing that there were so many people, Shui Wuxia suggested, there's no hurry to cultivate. Everyone, let's go. Perhaps, in the process of experimenting with the power of the domain, everyone will gain new insight. Sometimes, it's not good to build a car behind closed doors. Open your heart, and maybe you'll be enlightened and discover something. Her words were not only spoken to Raging Flame, but also to admonish Drunken Cat. Since Shui Wuxia, who truly had the right to speak, had spoken, Raging Flame naturally didn't dare to not give her face. Here, she wasn't the big sister, but a female giant of the heaven realm who couldn't even reach the standard of the gate of life and death, causing her to feel a sense of inferiority. Yu Yang brought them to the southern heaven realm. In the Emerald Territory, they were looking for a magical beast whose strength had reached the first level of heaven stage. Because the first to experiment was not Yu Yang, but Princess Sisai and Shui Wuxia. What kind of surprise would their Holy Force domain and Divine Sense domain bring to everyone? Not to mention Fallen Flowers and the others, even Yu Yang was looking forward to it. Raging Flame knew that Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai's battle prowess couldn't be compared with common sense, but she couldn't help but feel dizzy. Earth Stage Level 6 against Heaven Stage Level 1? Even if it was a challenge of a higher level, wasn't it too much? A Heaven Stage magical beast was not a soft persimmon. It wasn't something that could be pinched easily. The Heaven Stage magical beast that Yu Yang used to test was the boss of a nearby mountain. It was a Heaven Stage Level 1 golden flaming lion. With its copper skin and iron bones, it wasn't afraid of any attacks. In the vicinity, even the city lords of Heaven Stage didn't dare to provoke it. The golden flaming lion was the king of the Lion King Valley. Within 100 kilometers of the Lion King Valley, it had drawn out its territory. With its sensitive senses, it immediately discovered the invasion of a group of human warriors. Out of caution, it did not immediately launch an attack. Instead, it drove away a group of Earth Stage Level 6 demonic cows and had them charge towards the enemy to test the waters. As a king, it had quite a bit of intelligence and could determine whether the enemy was dangerous or not. It even knew that the Emerald Lord had sent people to capture it and its descendants more than once, so that it could become his guardian war beast. The golden flaming lion absolutely rejected this kind of loss of freedom. However, the strength of the Emerald Lord was not something it could contend against at the moment. Therefore, every time it saw an intruder, it would be exceptionally cautious, wary of the hunting mercenaries sent by the Emerald Lord. Raging Flame, who was wrapped in the invisible cloak, really wanted to ask for permission to fight, because there were at least 1,000 demonic cows on the other side. Although these demonic cows' levels were not high, when they were enraged, they were extremely powerful. If a weak mercenary group or bandit group encountered them, other than the strongest leader or backbone, most of the ordinary members would be annihilated. Big brother, leave it to me this time. It had been a long time since Yu Bing had shown Yu Yang the results of her cultivation, so she decided to take the opportunity to report it to her brother. Can you do it? Raging Flame was sweating profusely. In her previous chivalrous bandit group, Earth Stage Level 2 could only be logistics, responsible for moving things and the like. That was simply courting death. Yu Bing did not answer. 1,000 demonic cows seemed very difficult, but she still had a way. Pressing her small hands on the grimoire, she summoned 2 ancient titan trees that had already leveled up to platinum-ranked level 5. Then, she summoned the green light tree demoness that had already leveled up from silver-ranked level 3 to platinum-ranked level 3. The green light tree demoness of platinum level 3 was no different from a real person. However, she was still an elemental body and was still a distance away from becoming a human. However, she, who was originally quite intelligent, had advanced by leaps and bounds because of the focus of nurturing and Yu Bing's will. She looked very much like a human. In the future, it was almost certain that she would advance to Holy Beast. Compared to the green light tree demoness, the Titan ancient trees probably couldn't hope to advance to Holy Beast. The direction of their development was towards giant war beasts. With a height of 50 meters, the moment they appeared, the herd of demonic cows that were galloping towards them were at a loss for what to do. The demonic cows were all 5 meters tall. The leader was only 6 or 7 meters tall. Of course, it was taller than a human, but compared to the 50-meter tall Titan ancient trees, it was nothing. The green light tree demoness sprinkled out a soft green light, using the green rush special skill on the Titan ancient trees. In an instant, the Titan ancient trees became even taller, and whether it was the trunk or the branches, they were all plated with a dark and ancient aura. The crown on top of their heads became greener, and more roots hung down. Their legs also extended out huge roots, firmly nailing the 2 Titan ancient trees to the ground. Not to mention a herd of demonic cows, even a herd of mammoths wouldn't be able to shake them. The herd of demonic cows stopped and didn't dare to go any further. They snorted, and their expressions revealed hesitation as if they were in a dilemma. When the golden flaming lion saw this situation from the high cliff, he immediately leaped down and chased out all the fire hyenas that were in charge of cleaning up the carrion in his territory. He ordered them to pounce on the herd of demonic cows, forcing them to do things for him as if they were hunting for food. There were over 100 fire hyenas. They were all Earth Stage Level 7 magical beasts. They had a strong bite force and the ability to spit fire. They were one of the nemeses of the herd of demonic cows. Woof! When these fire hyenas crazily attacked from behind, the herd of demonic cows scattered in all directions. They could no longer care about the Titan ancient tree in front of them. As prey, they fled for their lives. Although most of them avoided the direction that the Titan ancient tree was blocking, a small number of demonic cows had no choice but to rush over under the pressure of their companions. Surprisingly, when they charged in front of the Titan ancient tree, they discovered that this tall war beast had strangely disappeared. The green light tree demoness and Yu Bing had already flown in front of the fire hyenas at an extremely fast speed. At the same time, they cleverly used a tree reset. The 2 Titan ancient trees were like Mount Tai pressing down on them, bringing a calamity to the fire hyenas. A few of the fire hyenas that had escaped from the pressure of the big tree discovered that countless thorns had risen in front of them. These thorns seemed to have a life of their own as they wrapped around the struggling fire hyenas. Countless spikes broke out from the ground and pierced into the bodies of the fire hyenas. As long as they saw blood, they would die immediately. Even though the carrion-eating fire hyenas had an extremely strong resistance to poison, they all died under Yu Bing's raging flame's inherent skill and sealing throat at the sight of blood. Tree reset. The green light tree demoness followed closely behind Yu Bing. The moment she killed the fire hyenas, she placed the 2 Titan ancient trees in front of the herd of demonic cows. Then, she allowed them to carry out a simple and effective massacre. Ah, so fast. Raging Flames was in disbelief. This kind of efficient killing ability was something that even a Heaven Stage cultivator might not be able to do. Was this little girl really only at the 2nd level of Earth Stage? If this little girl was allowed to grow up, then not to mention a herd of demonic cows, even a giant dragon would probably suffer under her hands. Chapter 706. Yu Bing had always followed her brother, Yu Yang, and had participated in countless fierce battles. Especially the experience of fighting against the super-expert crow from tens of thousands of years ago. Although she had failed, it had allowed her to reach a higher level of comprehension. Later on, she had crossed the gate of life and death from the gate of life and death. Her progress could be said to be 1,000 miles a day. Not to mention these Earth Stage Level 6 and 7 fire hyenas and demonic cows, even more powerful war beasts would die miserably under the green light tree demoness, Titan ancient tree, raging flame inherent skill, and blood-sealing throat. I didn't kill the leader of the fire hyenas immediately, and the position of the big tree should be in the middle of the herd of demonic cows. In order to kill all the demonic cows, blocking in front of them is a flaw. That's the reason why a lot of demonic cows ran away from us. Yu Yang even criticized him. Yu Bing listened to them one by one and nodded seriously, and Impatience yawned lazily. Her charming voice seemed to be a little bored. Little Yu Bing is not bad, but I just want to see Tigress and Wu Xia's domain. Hurry up and kill that stupid lion that's hiding on the cliff and peeping at us. City Lord Fallen Flowers replied with a smile. I think it's quite smart. It actually knows how to use tactics. Why don't we catch it and see who's suitable for the contract? Just as City Lord Fallen Flowers had said, the golden flaming lion was indeed very smart. As a masterless magical beast, to be able to do this, even Yu Yang, who was planning to kill it, was a little surprised. If Yu Yang knew that this golden flaming lion was originally just a wandering lion, and had stubbornly wandered through dozens of Heaven Realm territories before accumulating enough strength to fight for this Lion King Valley, defeating the powerful old Lion King with a non-Lion King bloodline, successfully seizing the old Lion King's wives, concubines, and everything in the territory, using deterrence to subdue the fire hyenas and become its subordinates, managing the Lion King Valley to prosper day by day, he believed that he would be even more surprised. The golden flaming lion was indeed smarter than ordinary magical beasts. Strength didn't represent intelligence. Even heaven-rank magic beasts didn't know how to use tactics, let alone subduing fire hyenas. Facing this group of humans, who seemed to be very powerful, the fire hyenas quickly died out. The golden flaming lion realized that something was wrong. It retreated to the cliff and shouted at the female fire lions behind it, preparing to lead them away temporarily. Previously, when the Emerald Lord had sent someone to capture it, it had also avoided the enemy's edge and was unwilling to fight head-on with the enemy. Otherwise, it would have become the spoils of war of the Emerald Lord. Roar, 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 the old Lion King, who had been defeated and expelled by the golden flaming lion, suddenly appeared and roared at his mortal enemy who had seized his throne. It had already recovered from its injuries and had accumulated enough power, ready to challenge again and take back everything that belonged to it. It was impossible for the old Lion King to let the golden flaming lion lead his pride away. It roared at its mortal enemy, declared war, and threatened the pride, forbidding them from leaving the Lion King Valley. The golden flaming lion was usually not afraid of this defeated opponent. It had wandered to many places and experienced too much. It was not something that the old Lion King, who had been trapped in the Lion King Valley his entire life, could compare to. The golden flaming lion had enough pride. Facing the old Lion King, it felt that it had a sense of superiority in terms of intelligence. Even though it didn't know the word wisdom, after being captured by the mercenaries and imprisoned in a cage, it understood the importance of wisdom. Those mercenaries would use all sorts of methods to capture magical beasts that were clearly stronger than them. As for magical beasts, they were unable to do so. After escaping from the cage, the golden flaming lion didn't know if it was because it had drunk the treasure spring water or because it had devoured the bodies of the mercenaries that had killed each other and obtained their intelligence. In short, from then on, it felt that it couldn't live like an ordinary magical beast. It had to be like a mercenary and know how to use its own head. Learning how to use its head to think, it survived countless battles and dangerous experiences. He had even used tactics to defeat the Lion King, who was originally a little stronger than him, and successfully seized its throne, becoming the only master of the Lion King Valley. Roar! The golden flaming lion looked down the cliff and saw that the humans were getting closer and closer. The golden flaming lion had long since seen this kind of calm demeanor from a very powerful heaven stage expert. He knew that this kind of person was extremely dangerous. It roared at the lionesses, urging them to follow it out of this dangerous place. However, these lionesses had long since gotten used to the Lion King's struggle for hegemony. Whoever was the strongest would be the husband. They all retreated, leaving space for the two lions to fight. They did not interfere and were only willing to follow the victor. Only two very young lionesses, who had given birth to cubs, talked about their children, intending to stay away from them so that the cubs would not die in the fierce battle. Roar! Two gigantic male fire lions, quasi-heaven stage existences, appeared behind the old Lion King. They were the two reinforcements invited by the old Lion King. In order to share the lionesses, they constantly interfered in the battle between the Lion Kings. The two male fire lions roared proudly and quickly intercepted the two lionesses who were leaving with their cubs. They ordered them to put down their cubs. Facing the threat of the lion, a lioness rose up to resist. That was because it completely belonged to the golden flaming lion. It had never let the old Lion King touch it before, so it would definitely not give its child to another lion, because if it did, the other party would immediately kill the cub. The other lioness was a little hesitant. Although the child belonged to the golden flaming lion, it was also once the beloved concubine of the old Lion King. The golden flaming lion looked down the cliff for the third time and found that the humans had already disappeared. He was even more nervous. With a wild roar, he knocked away the male fire lion that was about to kill his cub, picked up the cub, and then knocked away the male fire lion that was intercepting his young wife. After taking on the full force of the old Lion King's attack, he let his young wife enter the cave tunnel that he had personally dug to avoid the Emerald Lord's hunt. Under the attacks of the three fire lions, he persisted for a minute until he ensured that his young wife had escaped safely. Only then did he quickly escape with the cub. When it rushed into the cave passage, it vaguely heard someone exclaim, "Ha! A flaming lion with intermediate intelligence. Not bad." Yu Yang praised. The cave passageway is filled with claw marks. If this passageway was dug to escape from the enemy, then it's really quite amazing. Princess Sisai's six senses inherent skill was very observant, and with a single glance, she discovered that there was something unusual about this cave. The most important thing is that it actually feels a sense of danger to us, who are hiding our strength. This is the rarest thing. Xue Wuxia also praised him, which was a rare sight. I'll catch it. It's good to have another lion guarding the door. When Impatience heard that, she became interested. Woof! Grey Wolf hurriedly protested and wagged its tail to please its master. It had an expression of "I'm the best watchdog" on its face. The little water-repellent golden-eyed beast could not speak yet, but its eyes were filled with schadenfreude. Grey Wolf, who was usually in charge of training it, was its great enemy. The old Lion King, who was bent on regaining his throne, did not know that a group of humans had arrived. Now that he saw it, he did not care. It usually ate a lot of Earth-stage mercenaries. The old Lion King, who deliberately wanted to show off his might as a Lion King in front of the lionesses, let out an earth-shattering roar towards Yu Yang, Yu Bing and Anan roaring like thunder. The other two male fire lions, who were preparing to share the lionesses with the old Lion King, were not willing to fall behind. They shook the flaming mane on their necks and erupted with the power of quasi-heaven stage, approaching Yu Yang and the others step by step. In order to test her holy power domain, Princess Sisai stood up. Afraid that the aura of the divine equipment would scare the demonic beasts, she deliberately kept the prison Emperor Divine sword and replaced it with an ordinary bronze-ranked giant heavy sword. The heavy sword had no edge, and it was a great weapon. In the hands of Princess Sisai, even a bronze-ranked sword was a terrifying killing weapon. Summon the Azure Dragon Holy Power! Princess Sisai stabbed the bronze giant sword that was several times larger than her body into the ground, deeply into the hard rock. She pressed on the sword with one hand and raised the other high into the sky. Her body silently burst out a kind of energy that expanded rapidly. With her body as the center, it reached a radius of 1,000 meters. In this domain of energy, everyone felt a kind of divine boost, as if their bodies were not restricted by gravity at all and could easily float. On the contrary, the movements of the fire lions became slow, as if their bodies were being hindered by an invisible force. The sky inexplicably darkened. Thunder exploded in the air, and silver snakes danced wildly. There was a kind of magical cry that people had never heard before. It sounded in the depths of the sky and reverberated in everyone's soul. A strange green light, in the shape of a dragon, flew down from a high altitude. Its flight was a beauty that had never been seen before. It was different from any other bird. Its wingless flying posture was not like flying, but like swimming in the sky. Just as everyone was staring at it, the dragon-shaped green light had already swooped down at an extremely fast speed. It spun a few rounds above Princess Qianqian's head, and finally swooped down on Princess Qianqian and the bronze greatsword in her hand. Boom! The hard rock below the bronze giant's sword exploded. The giant's sword, which was covered in silver lightning, floated in the air automatically as if it had a mind of its own. When Princess Sisai opened her eyes, everyone was surprised to find that her pupils had turned silver. Kill! Princess Qianqian held the huge bronze sword in her hand and slashed at the male fire lion on the left. The male fire lion of Quasi-Heaven's stage had a head that was as hard as iron and was protected by flames. It was easily cut down by Princess Qianqian's unsharpened bronze sword. The huge lion head fell to the ground, and the blood in its neck didn't even have time to spray out. Is this also dragon power? Raging Flames discovered that the dragon power that Princess Sisai had blessed her with actually made her, who had inherited the bloodline of the ancient dragon, feel awe from the bottom of her heart. Why was this happening? Just a single type of power in the domain was enough to make her soul tremble. What exactly was this dragon power? Could it be that it was even stronger than the ancient dragon? It was just a shadow, a blessing from an illusion, and it was already this powerful. Just what kind of life was this dragon-like creature? Chapter 707. Thinking back to when the hornless dragon inherited the divine power of the supreme dragon god, Raging Flames had also felt a similar throbbing in her heart. What Raging Flames could be sure of was that Princess Sisai did not receive the inheritance of divine power. It was a domain power that she had comprehended from the gate of life and death. The gate of life and death. Was its secret really just a trial point left behind by the experts of ancient times? Raging Flames compared in her heart. If an expert like Princess Sisai, who had passed the trial of Tong Tian Tower, went up to the Heaven Realm and fought head-on with those experts of Heaven Realm who did not have the chance to enter the gate of life and death and could not pass that kind of abnormal trial, what would the result be? She believed that those experts of Tong Tian Tower who had completed the trial would kill Heaven Realm experts of the same level. Not to mention the same level Princess Sisai, who had the Saint Force domain, even if she was 2 or 3 levels higher than her, or even higher level experts of Heaven Realm, under her domain and the support of the dragon power, wouldn't they still be like chickens and dogs? No wonder every time the experts who caused chaos in the Heaven Realm came from the Tong Tian Tower in the Western Heaven Realm. Now that she thought about it, the strength of the Tong Tian Tower martial artists was not without reason. Raging Flames had an impatient urge to return to the gate of life and death. No matter what, she had to pass that abnormal trial, because that was the only way. She was a true expert. The 5th level of Heaven stage looked very powerful on the surface, but it was only in terms of strength. Her spirit was lacking, just like a cripple. If she still thought of herself as an expert like this, wouldn't she be making a fool of herself? Previously, when she saw that these women did not have the strength of Heaven stage, she was quite confident. She never thought that the truly weak one would be herself, who claimed to have the strength of the fifth level of heaven's stage. The superficial level and superficial power had confused his eyes and confused his will. Why did the clown dare to betray her? Why did he have the confidence to capture her? The reason was that he had seen through her shortcomings. Now that Raging Flames thought about it, she couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. No war beast, no domain, no special ability, no assistance. Just relying on the brute force inherited from the ancient dragon, she thought that she could roam the heaven realm and do justice. She was too naive in the past. Roar! Princess Qian Qian killed a male fire lion, scaring the other male fire lions so much that it quickly jumped back and dodged, not daring to advance rashly. It opened its huge mouth and spat out a long stream of flames. The flames were like a storm, sweeping towards Princess Qian Qian. In the face of the quasi-heaven-ranked male fire lion's flames, Princess Sisai did not panic. She stretched out her jade-like hand and shouted, "Convert to vermilion bird holy power." It was similar to the Nirvana Fire Phoenix, but it did not have the long Nirvana Fire Phoenix tail. Its entire body was burning with purple flames. An unfamiliar gigantic firebird appeared behind Princess Sisai. As soon as it appeared, everyone present felt a burst of warmth. Standing in Princess Sisai's domain, it was as if a pair of invisible fire wings had been inserted on their backs, allowing them to fly freely in the air. The high-temperature flames spat out by the male fire lion completely lost their heat and power in front of this strange and beautiful firebird. Even if Princess Sisai did not put up any resistance, everyone standing behind her could only feel a cool breeze of flames blowing from the male fire lion's mouth. Raging Flames, who already had a strong ability to resist flames, were surprised to discover that she had obtained the amplification of flames. Her strength had multiplied, as if the flames spat out by the male fire lion were not an attack, but a blessing. She looked up. Yu Yang, Impatience, Shui Wuxia, and the city lord of fallen flowers were extremely good at concealing their auras. However, Yu Bing, Inan, and Drunken Cat all had rings of fire wrapped around their bodies. It was obvious that the flames were no weaker than Raging Flames, the inheritor of the ancient dragon's bloodline. Fire attribute attacks are ineffective, and they are converted into amplification for one's own side? Raging Flames discovered that the holy power of this domain was so abnormal that it made one's hair stand on end. If she were to encounter an expert with pure fire energy attacks, would that guy cry in the face of such a domain? Just now, the dragon-shaped holy power was a destructive lightning bolt. Now, it ignored the enemy's fire energy attacks and even absorbed and transformed it into its own energy. If there were 4 types of holy power, then what were the 3rd and 4th types of holy power? Raging Flames looked at Princess Sisai. At this moment, the male fire lion didn't even notice that the enemy was bathed in flames. It was tantamount to enjoying itself. Just like before, when it attacked the enemy, it spat out flames and took advantage of the enemy's burning pain to give the enemy a fatal blow. It jumped up high, waved its front claws, and roared like thunder. It unleashed its greatest strength, preparing to tear the human in front of it into pieces. The firebird behind Princess Sisai directly froze the male fire lion in midair, as if it wanted to instantly destroy the other party with a mouthful of fire. However, Princess Sisai did not do so. Instead, she once again changed the domain's holy power. The entire earth and cliff trembled, as if some prehistoric beast had drilled out from the deepest part of the earth. A mirage of a strange beast that was so huge that one couldn't see its entire body, and only a little of its back could be seen, appeared at Princess Sisai's feet. The golden patterns looked like a tortoise, and each pattern had different runes on it. It was extremely mysterious. A dragon's head could be seen from 1,000 meters away, and on the other side of the cliff, there seemed to be a snake's tail. When Yu Yang and the others looked at themselves, they realized that there was a strange golden pattern on them. What was the use of this golden pattern? The attacking male fire lion gave the answer. It was frozen in midair, but when the vermilion bird was digested, it regained its original ability to move. Moreover, it had no idea that it had stopped in midair and become an obvious target. It continued to roar and tear down with its claws. Princess Sisai held the heavy, edgeless bronze sword in her hand and gently raised it to block the sword. How could the male fire lion care about a giant, edgeless sword? Its sharp claws could split gold and stone. A claw slammed into the giant sword covered in golden patterns. Sparks splashed like a waterfall. Tens of thousands of sparks flew into the air, blooming like fireworks. The male fire lion's sharp claws seemed to have collided with an iron wall. Raging Flames saw with her own eyes that the claws shattered, the sharp claws broke, and the bones pierced out of the flesh. The claws that could split gold and stone turned into minced meat after a single strike. The male fire lion, unable to restrain its momentum, collided with the giant sword and was sent flying with a miserable howl. Then it fell onto the mountain rock. Smashing the boulder, it rolled to the ground in extreme pain. It struggled to get up, wanting to escape, but before it could take 2 or 3 steps, its body had already turned into a frozen zombie. Raging Flames swallowed a mouthful of saliva and found that she felt like she was choking. That kind of golden pattern was a hard defense. She had already sensed it. However, what she never expected was that this kind of golden pattern also had an extremely strong recoil power. The stronger the opponent's attack, the greater the recoil. Moreover, the recoil was not only the opponent's attack power, but also a terrifying frost energy. That male fire lion was a fire attribute quasi-heaven stage warbeast. After the recoil, it could also turn its entire body into a frozen zombie. If the recoil landed on an ordinary martial artist, wouldn't they turn into a pile of ice shards? Before they could even try the 4th domain ability, the 2 quasi-heaven stage male fire lions were dead. This was the power that they had comprehended after entering the gate of life and death and passing the trial. Perhaps everyone was different, but as long as they passed the trial of the gate of life and death, they believed that even if they weren't comparable to Princess Sisai, they wouldn't be much worse. The expression in Raging Flame's eyes changed. In an instant, an incomparably firm brilliance flashed. No matter what, she had to pass through the gate of life and death. She silently clenched her fists, truly putting down the pride of a heaven stage expert. Although the 5th level of heaven stage was very powerful, far surpassing Princess Sisai and the others on the surface, with Princess Sisai and the others' speed of improvement, it would be too easy for them to catch up to her, who was like a cripple. If he wanted to become stronger, not only did he have to raise his level, he also had to pass through the gate of life and death and become a true heaven stage expert. No, he had to become the innate sovereign that Shui Wuxia and the others spoke of. Only the innate sovereign was worthy of being called a true expert. That Lion King and the Lioness want to escape. When Yu Bing discovered that the 2 male fire lions were dead, the old Lion King immediately turned around and fled. It's fine. Shui Wuxia smiled and caressed Yu Bing's little head. Seeing that she was about to test the spiritual sense domain, Princess Sisai, who had yet to fully display her holy force domain, retracted her domain, put the bronze greatsword back on her back, and handed the battlefield to Shui Wuxia. It was only at this moment that everyone realized that a portion of the Lion King's valley, which was estimated to be at least 10 kilometers wide, was enveloped in a special psychokinesis energy field. If Shui Wuxia had not let everyone know about this psychokinesis energy field, other than Yu Yang and Impatience, no one else would have been able to sense its existence. This psychokinesis energy field was invisible, pervasive between heaven and earth. Everyone had a strange feeling that in this psychokinesis energy field, in this energy field that was more than 10 times larger than Princess Sisai's holy force domain, everything in the world was under Shui Wuxia's control. The old Lion King brought the lionesses and ran around at full speed for 3 minutes. With their natural outstanding running speed, they could escape at least dozens of kilometers away. However, in reality, they had not run more than 50 meters. It was as if there was an invisible maze that kept them in place. Several lionesses ran with all their might, but as they ran, they bumped into the mountain rocks, as if they could not see that there was a mountain in front of them, not a road. If this was explained as panicking and not choosing a path, then the fact that they all used their fastest speed to crash into the mountain rocks without retreating even if their heads were bleeding was puzzling. Why were they doing this? Other than Yu Yang, who had the heaven eyes divine vision, no one understood. Shui Wuxia seemed to understand everyone's confusion. She waved her hand and the scenery in front of her changed. The original Lion King's valley had changed. People stood high in the sky, looking down at the ground. The pride of lions that were running with all their might had a broad road in front of them, and behind them was an ancient dragon of Heaven's stage level 6. The appearance of the ancient dragon, even though they knew that this was a mind-power illusion created by Shui Wuxia's spiritual will domain, still gave everyone a fright when they saw its terrifying appearance. Its domineering aura that looked down on all beasts, its blazing dragon flames, its lightning-like eyes, and its terrifying mouth that could devour everything were all so real, as if an ancient dragon had descended into the Lion King's valley, gate of life and death. This is the illusion of the gate of life and death. Raging Flames was stunned. She didn't expect Shui Wuxia to be able to transform the trial of the gate of life and death into her own domain ability. Not to mention the pride, even she herself might not be able to break through this spiritual will domain. Even though she knew that the ancient dragon was fake, Raging Flames still couldn't deny its existence. The ancient dragon waved its dragon claw and sent a lioness flying. Boom! The lioness fell heavily to the ground, blood splattering everywhere. Raging Flames knew that this was an injury caused by her own collision with the rock, but she still couldn't deny the shock that the ancient dragon's attack had caused to her heart. Another female lion cried out in pain and died under the devouring and biting of the dragon. Its corpse was split into 2 halves, and half of it was swallowed by the dragon. The other half, blood flowed all over the ground. Everyone could see it clearly. However, when Shui Wuxia changed the spiritual will domain to its original scene, everyone discovered that the lioness had died. She had died under her own fear. Her corpse wasn't torn in half at all, nor was there any trace of blood. However, she had died from a mental breakdown. Even in death, her eyes couldn't conceal her fear of the ancient dragon. In fact, what was even stranger was that in her round eyes, there was a reflection of the ancient dragon's image. It had to be said that Shui Wuxia's spiritual will domain had already reached a place where she could kill people without seeing blood. Raging Flames now had reason to believe that if she were to fight against Shui Wuxia, she might die in this spiritual will domain. At the very least, she would have a mental breakdown and become a madman. Too terrifying. The old Lion King, who had been completely controlled by his mind power and had fallen into madness, didn't know the truth at all. He had experienced hundreds of battles on his way to escape, killing all the enemies he had encountered, including his own pride of lionesses. In the end, the exhausted him discovered that there was a sun gem in front of him that could recover his strength and increase his own strength. He immediately swallowed it in excitement. It was the extremely cold ice crystal that Shui Wuxia had thrown on the ground. Before he swallowed it, he had even ruthlessly killed all his remaining wives and children because they also seemed to want to share the energy of this sun gem. In the end, the old Lion King enjoyed the pleasure of the sun gem's advancement in satisfaction. He didn't know at all that the extremely cold ice crystal he had swallowed was in conflict with the Lion King fire heart in his body, and mistakenly thought that it was an increase in pleasure. The result was naturally an explosion to death. I won't dare to eat carelessly any more. Raging Flames wiped away her cold sweat. Oh my God, what did it mean to die a stupid and idiotic death? This was it. What did it mean to die a muddled death? This was it. What did it mean to die a self-inflicted death? This was it. When the old Lion King thought that he was safe and that he had profited from his misfortune, it was actually the moment of his death. Shui Wuxia's final test was that if the old Lion King didn't kill his wife and children when he wanted to obtain the deadly sun gem, he might even spare his life. After that test, the old Lion King deserved to die, and his death was not to be regretted. Yu Yang smiled. Although you haven't displayed the true power of your divine sense, I finally understand the power of your divine sense domain. Your divine sense domain, as well as Tigress's Saint Force domain, actually have many similarities with my creation domain. Then, what is Big Brother's creation domain like? Yu Bing looked at Yu Yang with admiration. Let's put it this way, my creation domain has the power of the gate of life and the power of the gate of death. It has a lot of similarities with Wuxia and Tigress, but it has to be a bit more complicated. In addition to my original domain, as well as the special skills of various war beasts and treasures, I believe that the enemies who fight against me will suffer a lot. The only flaw is that my domain currently only has a radius of 100 meters, and the area it affects is too small. If my domain is as big as Wuxia's domain, I believe that other than the power of law or the will to surpass my sovereign's heart, there is no other way to leave. Really? Hurry up and find a heaven stage powerhouse to test it. I can't use magical beasts to test my true level. City Lord Fallen Flowers was anxious and wanted to pull Yu Yang to test it. Wait a minute, we still have a golden flaming lion to catch. Yu Yang's memory was very good. Anything he fancied would not be able to escape. Chapter 708 Lion King Valley, Periphery. The golden flaming lion brought the lioness and the 2 cubs and successfully escaped through the cave passageway. It was satisfied with its foresight. In the City Lord's mansion of the human City Lord, there was an underground secret passage. The golden flaming lion had learned the importance of tunnels from being captured once. Now, it was proven that digging a tunnel back then was definitely a life-saving method. If not for this secret passage, he would have died in the Lion King Valley like the old Lion King. The golden flaming lion didn't need to turn his head to feel the aura of the Lion King Valley disappearing one by one. This kind of aura disappearing was not a good thing. It meant that the old Lion King and his 2 companions had been killed by those inconspicuous humans. It was a pity for the lionesses. They wouldn't have died. Of course, the golden flaming lion was also satisfied to have a loyal lioness follow him with her young. Under the counterattack of the old Lion King, all the lionesses refused to flee, and it was willing to follow him. This was too rare. Roar! The golden flaming lion put down the cub in his mouth and urged the lioness, who was still looking back at the Lion King Valley, to hurry up and not linger in this land of death. If he didn't leave quickly, not only the old Lion King and the others, even he himself wouldn't be able to protect himself. The lioness was reluctant to leave her hometown, where she had lived since birth, and turned her head 3 times. Moreover, the disappearance of the aura of her loved ones made her feel uneasy. If it weren't for the repeated urging of the golden flaming lion, the lioness would have wanted to go back and see what was going on. The golden flaming lion kept growling, urging the lioness to leave with him. Along the secret area that the golden flaming lion usually patrolled, he hid in the bushes and used the shade of the trees to sneak away. After running for an unknown distance, perhaps a few 100 kilometers, it was only when the golden flaming lion felt safe that he gradually stopped running. When he was thirsty and hungry, there was a clear stream in front of him, as well as a plump, white-bellied fish. The lioness put down the cub and jumped into the water. First, he took a beautiful cold bath, then drank his fill of the stream water. Although it usually disdained to eat this kind of white-bellied fish, it no longer refused the food in its mouth. It waved its claws and swept the fish ashore, hurriedly eating with the 2 cubs. The golden flaming lion was also hungry, but it did not eat at the same time. Instead, it vigilantly observed its surroundings, guarding against the appearance of enemies. There were magical beasts that ruled over every region. Being in the enemy's territory, if one did not maintain sufficient vigilance, then one might not even know how one died. Only when the lioness was full and took the initiative to take on the responsibility of vigilance did the golden flaming lion slowly walk to the stream and drink the water. Its caution was not without reason. All the careless wandering magical beasts became food for others. It was impossible for them to survive. Just as the golden flaming lion was happily drinking the cool stream water, a shadow seemed to appear on the slightly rippling surface of the water. The golden flaming lion's entire body trembled as it stopped drinking. The water gradually calmed down, reflecting a terrifying creature. It was an ancient dragon of Heaven Stage Level 6. Its eyes were filled with ridicule as it looked at the shocked golden flaming lion. Roar! The golden flaming lion endured the urge to escape and turned his head with difficulty to look at his wife and children. What made it feel lucky and hopeless was that the lioness and the 2 children had actually fallen asleep because they were too tired. They did not know that there was an ancient dragon of Heaven Stage Level 6 looking down from the sky. The 3 of them were sleeping soundly. Fight? It was impossible to beat him. Even if 1,000 of them surrounded and attacked the other party, they would not be able to win. But was he really going to let the other party swallow him in one gulp? The golden flaming lion did not care about angering the terrifying enemy and rushed to the side of the mother and son. He threw the sleeping cubs far away, one on the left and one on the right, hoping that one of them could escape. As for the awakened lioness, it did not even have the time to say a word to her. It roared, turned around, and rushed towards the enraged ancient dragon without hesitation. Even if it was slapped away by the other party's claws, it still had to buy some time for this loyal and devoted wife to escape. The huge dragon claw fiercely slammed down. The golden flaming lion felt that death was imminent. Other than leaping up high and using all its strength to collide with the dragon claw, it turned its head slightly and looked at his wife from the corner of its eyes to see if she had escaped. An irresistible force assaulted his body. The golden flaming lion felt his consciousness blur. Could it be that this was death? After being blurry for a long time, it suddenly heard a human voice. This lion seems to be pretty good. Although its strength is a bit lacking, if you spend some time to nurture it, it should be a good watchdog. It's already very rare for a war beast to have intelligence. The most important thing is that it has the spirit of sacrifice and is full of humanity. This is even rarer. Who wants it? The little water-repellent golden eyes beast can barely be considered a mount in the future. It's already an exception. I won't contract any other war beast. Besides, it's a male, and there are lionesses and cubs. I don't have the time to take care of their family. The golden flaming lion gradually woke up and realized that the person who spoke was a woman with a huge sword on her back. This woman was one of the humans he had seen in the Lion King Valley. The golden flaming lion didn't have the time to be shocked at the fact that he was still alive. When he saw the humans around him, he felt fear. The humans he had seen in the Lion King Valley had actually caught up to him one by one. These people were indeed not weak. Moreover, it seemed that killing the old Lion King was not enough. They also wanted to kill his entire family. The woman who spoke first held a blazing Lion King fire heart in her hand. Needless to say, this was the heart of the old Lion King. It's over. Next, it should be my heart. When the golden flaming lion completely opened his eyes, he discovered that the lioness and the 2 cubs were sleeping soundly at the feet of that group of people. It was as if they were the same as when the giant dragon had attacked, completely unaware of the danger they were in. Didn't they escape? Could it be that the other party had captured them? It jumped up and rushed to their side. Just as it was about to throw the 2 cubs out like before, the golden flaming lion suddenly discovered a saint-rank scythe. It was just a hair's breadth away from touching its eyelashes, almost stabbing into its eyeballs. Meow meow. A strange wolf wearing dark sacred armor wrapped its tail around a black scythe that was filled with the aura of death, mercilessly letting out a warning. Roar! The golden flaming lion hurriedly lowered its head, closed its mouth, and retracted its sharp teeth, showing its submission to its opponent. It peeked around, originally wanting to observe the situation and prepare to escape. He didn't expect to be shocked. This was actually still the Lion King's valley. After fleeing for a few hundred kilometers, he had returned to this terrifying Lion King's valley. The old Lion King's exploded body was not far away. As for the two male lions, one was beheaded and the other was frozen. Could it be that he was captured by an ancient dragon of heaven stage level 6? Was the ancient dragon the war beast of these humans? The golden flaming lion's entire body trembled. It discovered that the humans in front of it were different from the mercenaries it had met before. Even the strongest city lord it had met before was far inferior to the humans in front of it. In the eyes of these humans, there was a light of wisdom that it had never seen before. It was filled with confidence and vigor. Especially the only man in the group. His eyes were as deep as the starry sky in the sky. It was impossible to see his depth in that kind of brilliance. The golden flaming lion had a feeling that compared to this man, the smart mercenaries he had met in the past were not even worthy of carrying his shoes. He felt like a distant starry sky. He could look up, but he couldn't touch it. Sister Anan, and I don't want it either. The one who spoke now was the little girl that the golden flaming lion had seen that could summon a giant treant. She was only at the second level of the Earth stage, but who would have thought that not long ago, she had slaughtered a group of Earth stage level 7 fire hyenas and a group of Earth stage level 6 demonic cows. Don't look at me, I still haven't fused with the contract yet. Why don't you give it to Sister Yi? If you contract a heaven stage golden flaming lion, your strength will definitely double. Nyonyo needs more time to cultivate, but now that the war is approaching, you can't do without a powerful war beast. The golden flaming lion heard a human woman suggest that the tall woman with the panda that was about to advance to the holy stage contract with him. That's not good. I can't help you right now. Woof meow. Grey Wolf, you want to contract? That's not a bad idea. In any case, Medusa has already contracted with the tiger shark and the blood python king. I can still reluctantly agree to you making a little brother. When the golden flaming lion saw that the man in the lead did not object, he was scared half to death. He was already pitiful enough to be contracted by a human and become a beast under his command. However, if he let the strange wolf in the holy armor contract him and become his subordinate, who knew if this fellow would devour his entire family when he was hungry? Roar, roar, roar! The golden flaming lion quickly jumped out and bowed to the tall woman. Although this woman's strength was not high, how could she be an ordinary person with a panda that was about to reach the holy stage? The most important thing was that these humans were not simple. The weakest little girl could easily kill a large group of demonic cows and fire hyenas. If he were to contract the tall woman and recognize her as his master, he believed that it would not be bad. No matter what, he could not become that strange wolf's contracted war beast. That was too dangerous. Looking at the other party's intelligence, he definitely did not have the chance to display it. A strange wolf that had fused with the dark holy armor and a holy level dark demon scythe, and it was also a divine beast. It needed him to fight for it? When the golden flaming lion saw the strange wolf summon the grimoire, he was so scared that his entire body trembled. He quickly lay in front of the tall woman and let out a whimper, begging the other party to quickly contract with him so that the strange wolf wouldn't take the initiative. As long as the other party didn't kill his family, it would be able to continue the next generation while serving such a noble human. As for the strange wolf that seemed to be up to no good, it would definitely not let its wife and 2 young children fall under the claws of the other party. Mom, contract it. When I grow up, I will definitely protect Mom, but Nyonyo is still young. Right now, I can only use this ugly lion." The words of the little panda girl caused the golden flaming lion to cry. How mighty was he? How could he be an ugly lion? However, he really couldn't compare to the other party. That little panda was about to become a holy beast, and he didn't even say a word. Compared to her, he was far inferior. Seeing that his future master was still hesitating, the golden flaming lion quickly made the smartest move. It brought the two sleeping cubs over and placed them at the feet of its future master. Then he crawled on the ground. It was as if the whole family had surrendered to him. All right, if this is everyone's wish. When the tall woman summoned the grimoire, the golden flaming lion was so moved that tears welled up in his eyes. Finally, he wouldn't fall into the hands of that strange wolf. Fortunately, his master was still a human and not a strange wolf. Chapter 709. Lion King Valley. The Wild Bull Bandits were heading here. In the Emerald Territory, the Wild Bull Bandits were a notorious group of bandits. The original name of the leader was no longer known, and everyone called him by the nickname Wild Bull. The name of the bandits was also because of him. Originally, they were registered as Gold Rush in the Mercenary Guild, but because they had committed too many crimes, they were classified as bandits by the Mercenary Guild and changed their registration to Wild Bull to avoid any misunderstanding. Captain Wild Bull, who was at the peak of the second level of Heaven stage, was one of the secret weapons of the Emerald Lord to keep the various city lords in check. Because there was someone behind him, Captain Wild Bull was not afraid of being wanted at all. He brought a group of evil fanatics and ran amok in the Emerald Territory, burning and looting everywhere. If the various city lords did not submit to the Emerald Lord, the territory under their rule would definitely be attacked and ravaged by the Wild Bull Bandit. Ever since the Emerald Lord's rebellion succeeded, only 10 of the 100 or so city lords under his command had loyal support. The 30 city lords only supported him on the surface. If these 30 city lords could be said to have given him some face and acknowledged the rule of the Emerald Lord, then the other 50 or so city lords were the sore point of the Emerald Lord. These city lords had always been neutral, neither supporting nor opposing. Other than paying a small amount of symbolic taxes every year, they secretly resisted the power of the Emerald Lord and refused the officials sent by the Emerald Lord. Some even secretly supported the rebel city lords in the remote and dangerous areas to continue to challenge the Emerald Lord. The Wild Bull Bandits were created because of these 50 or so neutral city lords. After decades of burning and looting, they had finally made some progress. There were more than 10 city lords who could not stand this harassment and officially submitted to the Emerald Lord, recognizing him as the rightful lord. Now, as the Emerald Lord's most loyal ally, the master of Black Wind City suddenly had a fire in his backyard. If he wasn't careful, a cross-border war would break out with the 3 great sects of the Western Heaven Realm. If he wasn't careful, the whirlpool would sink the entire Emerald Territory. In order to ensure that their common interests were not lost, this evil Wild Bull Bandits was immediately gathered by the Emerald Lord from afar. They were prepared to fight against the experts of the Western Heaven Realm in the name of a third party's private army. Captain, why are we taking a detour to the Lion King Valley? As Wild Bull's unchanging assistant for many years, Nyogen, who only had the strength of Earth rank level 5, had always maintained the good habit of asking questions when he didn't understand. He would always use his own stupidity to show off his leader's wisdom. What an idiot! The leader has his own plans, so why are you asking? Is this something a small team leader like you should be concerned about? The Heaven Stage expert, Fei Huang, who had just been promoted to vice captain, scolded the old man, Nyogen, with the might of a superior. From Fei Huang's point of view, Nyogen, who was at the 5th level of the Earth Stage, was a bootlicker. His strength was very weak, and he relied on the identity of the wild bull's fellow townsmen, as well as the qualifications of an old official and the flattery he had when the group was first established to survive. If it was another bandit group, a villain like Nyo Gen would have been eliminated long ago. I wouldn't dare. Please don't be angry, Vice Guild Leader. Nyo Gen quickly apologized, his attitude extremely sincere. Forget it, time is already tight. Taking a detour around the Lion King Valley has indeed puzzled the brothers. It's not unreasonable for Nyo Gen to ask. Hua Ban, who had joined the group with Fei Huang, felt that it was not appropriate to offend the old officials. Although they did not have the strength, they were still old and from the same hometown as Captain Wild Bull. Brothers, don't think too much. Captain Wild Bull, who was being pulled by two golden bull kings of Quasi-Heaven stage, displayed the dignity of a superior with every move he made, but at the same time, he displayed the tolerance he had for his brothers. If someone didn't know him, they would definitely think that this gentle and elegant middle-aged man with an extraordinary temperament was a city lord or a famous scholar. Who would know that he was a demon who killed people like flies, raped and pillaged, and was a vicious demon who could make people pale at the mere mention of his name. Only those in the know knew a secret. 1/10 of the slaves in the Emerald Territory were actually captured and sold by him, and the number was no less than 1,000,000. The Wild Bull, who had killed no less than 10 million people, was only at the peak of the second level of Heaven stage. However, his bounty was even higher than that of the Master of Black Wind City, who had a bounty of 220 million at the third level of Heaven stage. In the Emerald Territory, in the mercenary guilds of the various cities, Wild Stake was ranked 4th among the 10 most wanted criminals. His bounty was as high as 318 million, and he was definitely the murderer with the highest bounty among the same level of strength. On the surface, he was not angry, but he was also a gentleman. His magnetic voice, elegant demeanor, and mature temperament could move the hearts of some women who did not know the truth. Of course, the vast majority of women who were interested in him did not become female slaves that he sold, but became delicacies on his dining table. In the eyes of Captain Wild Bull, drinking pure virgin blood and secretly made women's buttocks and breasts was an unparalleled delicacy in the world. Of course, very few people knew about this hobby, including Fei Huang and Hua Ban, who had just joined the Wild Bull squad and were placed in an important position. Captain Wild Bull liked to pause when he spoke. First, he wanted everyone to focus more, and second, he wanted everyone to applaud in time. He had the art of leadership. Why did we take a detour to this Lion King Valley? There are 3 reasons. Wild Bull paused for a moment. Everyone was attracted by his words, and their faces revealed expressions of attentiveness and listening attentively. Wild Bull nodded in satisfaction and explained at a moderate pace. First, the Lion King Valley is located not too far from Black Wind City, and it is very likely that it is a secret place where the experts of the Western Heaven Realm temporarily reside. We came here with the intention of exploring their true location, and if it is true, then we can immediately spread the news. If it is not, then we can narrow the search area again and remove this very important stronghold. So that's how it is. Nyo Gen, the old minister, revealed an expression of sudden realization. Second, if the enemy is not here, then we can secretly occupy the Lion King Valley as a temporary stronghold. Captain Wild Bull gave the second reason. As a bandit group, even if their private army participated in the battle, other city lords would not welcome them. As a notorious Wild Bull bandit group, it was impossible for them to live in Black Wind City, no matter what. Although the Lion King Valley was a little far, as a secret stronghold, it was really not bad. High, it's definitely high. Nyo Gen excitedly gave a thumbs up. The Lion King Valley is a good place. It is indeed safe and well hidden. The dozen or so captains also whispered to each other, praising the captain's intelligence. However, the Lion King Valley is ruled by a group of fire lions. Although the lionesses are all below Quasi-Heaven stage, the Lion King is of Heaven Stage. If we want to forcefully take over this place, I'm afraid it will be very difficult for us to not cause a commotion." Vice Captain Fei Huang's meaning was not that he was afraid of the old Lion King of Heaven Stage, but that there would be an accident. If the Lion King Valley was really taken over by the experts of the Western Heaven Realm as a stronghold, then the Wild Bull Bandit group would be courting death. Other than the captain and the 2 vice captains, the 3 Heaven Stage experts, the other members, such as a flatterer like Niu Zhen, would definitely die. It didn't matter if the flatterer Niu Zhen died, but if the entire Wild Bull Bandit group was annihilated, then it would be a heavy loss. Without any soldiers or generals, how could they fight against the experts of the Western Heaven Realm? Even if they won, there was no one to carry the spoils of war. For Fei Huang, who had been promoted to vice captain not long after joining the group, he did not want to see the entire group destroyed. He and Hua Ban were originally free bandit. The reason why they joined the Wild Bull was not because the Wild Bull Bandit group's reputation was bad enough. It was because the Wild Bull Bandit group had enough people and was large enough. The Wild Bull Bandit group had gathered all kinds of madmen and murderers. There were more than 50,000 of them, and they had plundered for many years. Their wealth was comparable to that of a country. These things were the reason why Fei Huang and Hua Ban came to join the Wild Bull. Although they could not defeat the Wild Bull at the second level of Heaven Stage, Fei Huang and Hua Ban had 2 people. As long as they broke through to the second level of Heaven Stage in the future, then overthrowing the Wild Bull would be just around the corner. If the Wild Bull Bandit group was gone, wouldn't Fei Huang and Hua Ban return to being single again? "Don't worry, my 2 brothers." The Wild Bull smiled. He personally picked up the silver pot, poured a cup of wine into his own golden cup on the table, and handed it to Fei Huang. He then looked straight at the other party, his eyes very sincere, and gently nodded as he watched Fei Huang drink. After Fei Huang thanked him for his drink, he poured another cup for Hua Ban, and then drank 3 times from the golden cup without any hesitation, showing that he was sharing wealth with his 2 brothers. The Wild Bull stood up and explained to his brothers in a gentle voice, "This place is far away from Black Wind City. I will do my best to defeat the enemy with my own hand. I will not let any of my brothers be harmed. Everyone can stay in this stronghold in peace for the future." Clap, clap, clap. Niu Zhen took the lead and applauded enthusiastically. When he heard that the guild leader would take action, he was of Heaven Stage and had the help of 2 vice captains. Naturally, it would not be a problem to take down the Fire Lion King. Thus, all of them rushed forward with great enthusiasm. Everyone wanted to show off in front of the guild leader. After the members of the group dispersed, the Wild Bull signaled for the 2 vice captains, Fei Huang and Hua Ban, to sit beside him. He smiled and said, "Actually, since the beginning of the plan, I have ordered people to investigate the Lion King Valley. A few years ago, a golden flaming lion fought with the original Fire Lion King in the Lion King Valley. It injured the Fire Lion King and drove it out of the valley. After hearing this news, a few days ago, I ordered my men to release the 2 male fire lions outside the valley so that they could meet the wandering Fire Lion King. Just as I thought, with the help of 2 quasi-heaven stage male fire lions, the Fire Lion King has decided to regain its throne. Now, they are probably fighting each other to the death. We only need to go there, and we will be able to reap the benefits of the fishermen. What danger is there?" Only then did Fei Huang and Hua Ban understand that what they had said before was all nonsense. This Captain Wild Bull was indeed not a simple person. If the experts of the Western Heaven Realm really occupied this place, how could he bring his subordinates here to die? It turned out that he had already planned this and was prepared to show off in front of the members that the guild leader had personally killed the Heaven Stage Fire Lion King. The 2 of them felt a chill in their hearts at the arrangement of the Captain Wild Bull. Facing such a person, it would be a bit difficult to plot against this bandit group. No wonder the wild bull's bounty was as high as 318 million, and no one had been able to touch a single hair on his head. On the surface, Fei Huang and Hua Ban repeatedly praised this brilliant plan. They praised the Captain Wild Bull's wisdom, and also showed their loyalty. Hearing the wild bull nod slightly, they secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They didn't see that when the Captain Wild Bull smiled with satisfaction, his narrowed eyes flashed with light, like the fangs of a poisonous snake. No one could see the light in his eyes, nor could anyone see through his thoughts. Only Niu Zhen, who had been with the Captain Wild Bull for the longest time, knew a little. All the Heaven Stage experts who planned to join the Wild Bull Thief Guild, all the vice-captains who plotted against the Wild Bull Thief Guild, would coincidentally die in battle. It was either because they couldn't rescue them in time, or because the vice-captain's personal attendants leaked the secret, or because they encountered an unavoidable factor. In short, for the time being, there was not a single vice-captain who could survive for more than 2 years. The outside world's speculation about the wealth that the Wild Bull Thief Guild had plundered was to double every year. Every year, it would attract Heaven Stage experts to seek refuge. But without exception, those who survived to the end. They were all good-for-nothing Niu Zhen, not those heaven-rank vice-captains with outstanding intelligence and strength. They had arrived at the Lion King Valley. Outside the valley, there were footprints of the Fire Lion King and the other 2 lions. At this time, the Captain Wild Bull stood up from the golden carriage and told the members that he would personally go and inquire about the enemy's intelligence. If there were Western Heaven Realm experts, he would release fireworks and everyone would temporarily evacuate upon seeing the signal. If there were no Western Heaven Realm experts, he would kill the Fire Lion King, occupy the Lion King Valley, and make this place the temporary stronghold of the Wild Bull Thief Guild. The 2 vice-captains, Fei Huang and Hua Ban, also asked the Captain Wild Bull if they were willing to go together and kill the Fire Lion King. If it wasn't for the fact that he was afraid of alarming the Western Heaven Realm experts inside, Niu Zhen would have led everyone to cheer for the Captain Wild Bull and send him off with the warmest applause. On the high cliff, there was a group of humans that no one could see, as if they were invisible. They were watching all of this. I was just about to find a Heaven Stage expert to test your domain, and now someone has come knocking on my door. I'll leave the hypocrite leader to you. As for the rest, leave it to everyone to fight. I really didn't expect that these 2 lions were actually placed here by this guy on purpose. With such a cunning servant, then what kind of person would the master behind him, the Emerald Lord, be? The young miss of the Shui family, who was holding the Book of Truth, muttered to herself as she pondered. I didn't know before, but in the future, he will be a dead man. Yu Yang, who had comprehended the power of the domain from the gate of life and death, was extremely confident. Meow. Grey Wolf glared at him, warning the golden flaming lion that he had just contracted not to snatch the credit from him. He had to have the awareness of being a lackey. The golden flaming lion almost cried. Was this guy a wolf or a human? Why was he so jealous? Chapter 710. Captain Wild Bull saw that the Pride was in a situation where both sides were injured. Of course, he also discovered traces of human battles. In an instant, he, Fei Huang, and Hua Ban made the most correct reaction. Stealth and concealment. From the high cliff, the 3 of them discovered a special cave that was not natural. This should be a man-made passageway. Captain Wild Bull and Fei Huang were stunned at first, but then they held their breaths even more cautiously, using their minds to sense the abnormalities in their surroundings. Someone must have been here, and there was more than one person. Could it be that this place had really turned the experts of the Western Heaven Realm into a secret stronghold? Or was it the treasure trove of a bandit group? Many bandit groups, after robbing, often could not dispose of the stolen goods immediately. Especially those kinds of treasures that were especially famous. Once they were taken out, they would be discovered, tracked, and offered a bounty. In order to maximize the benefits of robbing, bandit groups would usually find the most secret caves or small islands and bury the best treasures. They would only dig out the treasures after they had negotiated a price with the black market or found a buyer. Not to mention outsiders. Even Captain Wild Bull, he did the same. Walking around with all the loot they got? This wasn't showing off, this was brainless. Is Master Barton really going to put all his belongings here? The Lion King Valley is not safe, and it's not far from Black Wind City. Captain Wild Bull saw two humans walking out from the cave passageway. Their strength was not high. One man was at the 7th level of Earth Stage, while the other was at the 6th level of Earth Stage. That woman seemed to have a keen intuition of the outside world. She kept looking around. Captain Wild Bull quickly closed his eyes to prevent the woman from sensing him when he looked directly at her. I said you're stupid, but you still don't admit it. What do you mean by putting your life on the line? What do you mean by the most dangerous place is the safest? This is it. Who would have thought that the Lion King Valley would become the place where Old Man Barton stored his belongings? The valiant-looking young man was completely unaware of his surroundings. Although that's the case, I still feel that something's wrong here. The woman with the huge bronze sword on her back kept looking for something. Don't be so suspicious. Not to mention that the golden flaming lion has already escaped, the Fire Lion King and the male Fire Lion died in battle. Even if they didn't fight, they wouldn't be able to withstand a few punches from the master of Black Wind City. The young man didn't care at all. Let's hurry up and leave. If the heavily injured golden flaming lion returns, it would be terrible. The woman pulled the man's hand and hid in the cave passageway. For a long time there was no sign of anyone. Captain Wild Bull felt that his aura had disappeared for a long time before he slowly got up. Like a leaf drifting in the wind, he floated inside. The man-made cave passage was not very deep. At the end of the passage, a temporary teleportation array had been set up. On the walls of the passageway, there were a few particularly eye-catching signs. They were the secondary passageway and the true treasure room. These places were all sealed by special runic arrays, and there were also stone doors outside, which were made to look like rock walls. If they were not specially marked, then it would be really difficult to see that there were treasures inside. Seeing this, Captain Wild Bull sneered in his heart. It hadn't been a day or two since the master of Black Wind City and his lackey, Barton, wanted to get rid of the Emerald Lord and stand on their own. Although they were loyal on the surface, everyone had their own selfish motives. Captain Wild Bull often received secret reports that the master of Black Wind City was playing tricks behind their backs. Now it seemed that it was indeed the case. The property that Barton had taken away was only a cover on the surface. The real property was stored here. Judging from the cave passageway they had dug in secret, Black Wind and Barton had already planned this. If it wasn't for the fact that Black Wind had suddenly clashed with the three great sects of the Western Heaven Realm, Tong Tian, Long Ting, and Demonic Sect, he wouldn't have come to the Lion King Valley, much less use this place as a stronghold. If he hadn't come to the Lion King Valley, then how could he have known that the real property of the master of Black Wind City and his lackey, Barton, was actually hidden here? This was truly the case of wearing out iron shoes in fruitless search, finding it without any effort. A faint light flashed through the portal. Captain Wild Bull quickly left the cave, and anxiously signaled Fei Huang and Hua Ban not to make a sound. After a long while, it was still the same two young men. Looking at their unfamiliar faces, Captain Wild Bull knew that Black Wind and Barton had done many small tricks behind his back that he and the Emerald Lord didn't know about, and had cultivated many new confidants. The golden flaming lion might not be dead, but I don't want to patrol. I keep feeling that something is wrong here, as if it's very dangerous. The young female swordsman held the young man's hand. She seemed to have received an order to patrol the Lion King Valley, but she was unwilling to carry it out. Her natural intuition caused Captain Wild Bull to shiver slightly. If she were to report this to her superiors, It would definitely arouse the suspicion of the master of Black Wind City or Barton. It's fine if you don't want to patrol. This is a desolate mountain range, and no one has ever come here. The valiant man and the young woman should be a couple, comforting each other with kind words. The two of them came out of the cave and looked around. It was easy for Captain Wild Bull, Fei Huang, and Hua Ban to kill them, but they didn't want to reveal their tracks. They held their breath and hid in the grass. Seeing that there was nothing unusual, a pair of young lovers moved the lion's corpse into the cave and made some arrangements for the cave entrance on the high cliff. First, they blocked it with rocks, then they piled up vines to cover the entrance. When they were done, they felt that it was flawless. They looked at each other and smiled. They took out the golden scroll and instantly teleported away. Captain Wild Bull, who had discovered such an important secret, was ecstatic. How much wealth had the master of Black Wind City plundered over the years? That was truly incalculable. Regardless of the cross-border war with the Western Heaven Realm, as long as he could obtain the master of Black Wind City's wealth, then this trip would not be a loss. What made Captain Wild Bull the most excited was that Black Wind was a mantis stalking a cicada, not knowing that he was the oriole behind. The treasure collection had already been discovered by him, and the master of Black Wind City was destined to become a tragedy in the future. Regardless of whether he won the cross-border war or not, he would become a pauper. And he, who sat on the mountain and watched the tigers fight, would become the biggest fisherman. Brothers Fei Huang and Hua Ban, immediately order your brothers to quietly enter the valley and secretly station themselves inside. After that, head to Black Wind City and meet up with me. The place where we are staying is announced to be Sheep Horn Valley. We will take a detour to the Lion King Valley. Other than the Emerald Lord, no one else knows about it. Even if Captain Wild Bull didn't say it, Fei Huang and Hua Ban would still understand. They were inexplicably excited about this flying treasure. Although there was no need to dig out all the treasures that the master of Black Wind City had meticulously collected, in fact, this windfall had already entered the pockets of the Wild Bull thieves and had become the possessions of the three of them. Yes, Captain. Fei Huang and Hua Ban hurriedly agreed and quickly left the valley. They told the bandits to quiet down and secretly entered the valley. Of course, the matter of the treasure would not be announced to the public. Give this ring to the Lord and tell him that you found the rabbit nest. Captain Wild Bull wrote a letter on the spot and summoned a red claw snow pigeon. He first put the letter into the ring and sealed it with a secret technique. Then, he put the ring on the red claw snow pigeon's claws. He raised his hand and threw it into the sky. Goo goo goo. The red claw snow pigeon soared into the sky. In the blink of an eye, it streaked across the sky. Captain Wild Bull couldn't help but feel a little proud. He thought to himself that this was another great merit. The master of Black Wind City had already fattened up. If he didn't slaughter him now, he wouldn't be able to get rid of his tail. The master of Black Wind City had a close relationship with the clown, Long Xiang, Rachel, and the others. The Emerald Lord was worried that he wouldn't be able to kill the chicken and take the egg, so he didn't cook the dog. Now that he had found the treasure of the master of Black Wind City, how could he still be alive? The cross-border war in the Western Heaven Realm was caused by the master of Black Wind City, so it was a good excuse to eliminate him. On one hand, he would receive the property. On the other hand, he would regain control of his power. On the other hand, he would be able to quell the anger of the Western Heaven Realm experts. Why not? Seeing Fei Huang and Hua Ban lead the bandits into the valley from afar, a cold smile flashed across Captain Wild Bull's eyes. His smile revealed a fierce glint, like the fangs of a poisonous snake. He crushed the crystal stone and made it seem as if he was teleporting to Black Wind City. A doppelganger created from a special type beast entered the teleportation gate, while the real body was hidden in the darkness. After arranging for the members of the bandit group to immediately set up a secret stronghold, Fei Huang and Hua Ban also flew towards Black Wind City. In order to create a time difference with Captain Wild Bull, they did not immediately use the teleportation crystal stone. Instead, they chose to fly a long distance. This, in addition to the agreement between Captain Wild Bull and them, also carried a bit of selfishness. Are we really going to Black Wind City like this? Fei Huang hummed emotionally. I dare say that when we arrive at Black Wind City, Wild Bull will definitely find fault with us and cause trouble for the master of Black Wind City. Once the two sides become hostile and fight, we will inevitably be caught up in it. We fight to the death and get nothing out of it. On the contrary, he and the Emerald Lord benefit the most. Maybe for the sake of the greatest benefit, they will end our lives in the hands of Black Wind City. How many Heaven Stage experts have died in the Wild Bull Bandit group? They are all vice captains, but the Wild Bull is still alive and well. Let's wait and see. Hua Ban was a little unconfident. If it really is Black Wind's treasure collection, digging it all out won't be a short period of time. It will be even more difficult to take it all away. If this is the Wild Bull's test, and we enter the cave to retrieve the treasure, we will fall into a trap. It doesn't look like a test, does it? The bison's expression is very happy. Fei Huang was shocked, and his flying figure stopped. Wild Bull, it's impossible to guess his heart just by looking at his appearance. Who would have thought that he would send 2 male fire lions to the Lion King Valley? Of course, it might not be a test. Maybe it's a coincidence. It's also possible that Black Wind really kept the treasure here. Hua Ban felt that he and Fei Huang didn't have any ambitions on the surface. Captain Wild Bull shouldn't be testing them like this. If this was a test, then everything that they had done before was unnecessary. Fei Huang quickly waved his hand to stop Hua Ban, because he found a shadow in front of him. It looked like a wild bull. Unlike the shadows that Fei Huang and Hua Ban saw, the shadows that the wild bull saw now were 2 young people. The young couple that had clearly been teleported away had somehow returned to the outside of the Lion King Valley. The appearance of these 2 people really confused the wild bull and made him feel that something was amiss. If the 2 of them returned to the Lion King Valley and saw tens of thousands of bandits camping in the valley, then their previous plan would definitely fail. Why did this young couple return to the Lion King Valley? Could it be that they didn't check their surroundings carefully and were scolded by Barton? The wild bull was a little anxious. What should he do to stop the 2 of them? Chapter 7:11. Perhaps he could use the swordswoman's fear. Captain Wild Bull had a plan. He hurriedly retreated and summoned a Heaven Stage Flaming Lion King. If he got too close, it was very likely that the other party would be able to see through him and discover that this was a contracted warbeast. However, it was very far away, and it had only released its aura, so it was very difficult to distinguish whether it was a wild beast or a contracted beast. With the strength of a Heaven Stage Flaming Lion King, it shouldn't be a problem for it to scare away the young couple. As expected, the moment the Flaming Lion King appeared, before it could even roar at the sky, the sharp swordswoman noticed it. No, there's a powerful magical beast here. Heaven Stage, King Stage. The swordswoman pulled the young man's hand. Roar! The Flaming Lion King let out an earth-shattering roar. Too scary. The couple was so scared that they immediately crushed the teleportation crystal and fled. Before Captain Wild Bull could be happy, he realized that there was someone behind him. At first, he thought it was Fei Huang and the Hua Ban brothers. However, a sense of danger welled up from the bottom of his heart. He didn't turn around, but a cold light flashed in his eyes. He snorted word by word, "Master of Black Wind City, is that you?" He slowly turned his head and discovered that the master of Black Wind City was suppressing his anger as he stood behind him. Captain Wild Bull sighed inwardly at the appearance of the master of Black Wind City. He was still a little careless. He had spent all his effort to gather all the wealth he had plundered over the years in the Lion King Valley. How could the master of Black Wind City leave so easily? With Black Wind's suspicious heart, he would definitely check repeatedly to make sure that there were no problems before he could feel at ease. Perhaps Black Wind had already been on guard when he had sent people to release the 2 male fire lions. Wrong, he was wrong. If he could do it all over again, he would definitely pretend that he didn't know anything. Unfortunately, life couldn't be repeated. Wild Bull looked at Black Wind's eyes that were filled with killing intent. He knew that today's matter wouldn't end well. If you think that you, who are at the peak of the 3rd level of Heaven Stage, can really defeat me, who is at the 2nd level of Heaven Stage, then you are wrong. Captain Wild Bull sneered. If he didn't hide his strength and unique skills, he would have been killed by the mercenaries who came because of the bounty. How could he live until now? Wild Bull, I don't deny that you have unique abilities to be the only loyal dog of the Emerald Lord. However, if you think I will let you go carelessly, then you are wrong. Actually, I discovered your scheme a long time ago. From the very beginning, I had already made arrangements. I was just waiting for you to fall for it. The master of Black Wind City raised his hand, and sect leader Bai Song, Ching Song, Hong Song, Pang Man, Jin Feng, and the other Heaven Stage experts walked out from the darkness. Every time a person came out, Captain Wild Bull's eyebrows would jump. 6 Heaven Rankers, 2 of them were above him. 6 against 1, this might be the most difficult battle in his life. Sect leader Bai Song and Mr. Pang Man, are you 2 really going to surround and kill me? Captain Wild Bull suddenly laughed and asked calmly. Actually, we are just notarizing. It is inconvenient for us to ask about the grudges between you and the master of Black Wind City. Sure enough, sect leader Bai Song, who was as cunning as an old fox, did not stand on the side of the master of Black Wind City. However, even a blind person could see it. If Captain Wild Bull was defeated, then they definitely wouldn't mind adding insult to injury. Pang Man also had the same attitude. Captain Wild Bull was a member of the Emerald Lord. Before Wild Bull was defeated, he and Bai Song were unwilling to become enemies with the Emerald Lord. The master of Black Wind City summoned his strongest warbeast, the level 2 Heaven Stage Black Hurricane. In order to restrain Captain Wild Bull, he also summoned an earth-drilling sandworm. Later on, Black Wind's most loyal subordinate, General Jin Feng, also summoned a gold leopard that had just stepped into Heaven Stage. General Jin Feng and Captain Wild Bull were not on the same level, but he could restrain Captain Wild Bull's flaming Lion King. When Captain Wild Bull saw this, not only did his expression not change greatly, he even laughed disapprovingly. Although Black Wind had General Jin Feng's help, how could he be without help? As expected, Fei Huang and Hua Ban sensed the change in their auras and quickly flew over. When they saw the situation, their expressions changed. However, when they saw Captain Wild Bull's calm expression, they immediately stood behind Captain Wild Bull and summoned a group of quasi-Heaven Stage calamity locusts and a long-tailed leopard that was similar in strength to the gold leopard. Ha! Come out and make your enemies tremble. Captain Wild Bull summoned a Heaven Stage Level 2 Red-Eyed Demon Bull King and a Heaven Stage Level 2 Golden Belt Tauren Warrior. When the master of Black Wind City's expression became more and more unsightly, Captain Wild Bull summoned a Heaven Stage Thunder Beast. Finally, Captain Wild Bull glanced at sect leader Bai Song and Pang Man coldly and took out a high-rank holy level treasure, the Forbidden Space Ball. The Forbidden Space Ball could deprive all flying war beasts of their ability to fly within 1,000 meters. The time limit was 10 minutes. What would happen to the elemental war beast, Black Hurricane, who had lost its ability to fly? What would happen to the master of Black Wind City, who had lost his ability to fly? Bai Song, Pang Man and the others' expressions instantly changed. Captain Wild Bull laughed out loud. He liked to enjoy the pleasure of playing with his enemies. Although his level wasn't very high, he had 4 contracted war beasts that were above Heaven Stage. Not to mention that Bai Song and the others wouldn't interfere easily, even if they did surround and attack. Captain Wild Bull would still have a way to escape. Go to hell. The master of Black Wind City was extremely furious. When the war beast, Black Hurricane, landed on the ground, he immediately rushed forward, intending to kill Captain Wild Bull. That's right, you're going to die. General Jean Feng suddenly punched the master of Black Wind City's back. Black Wind, who had been ambushed, spat out a mouthful of blood, his face filled with astonishment. He couldn't believe that it was General Jean Feng who did it. Captain Wild Bull laughed out loud again, enjoying the great pleasure. He pointed at Black Wind and said, "What a fool! Jean Feng is my man. He is the nail that the Emerald Lord buried beside you. You are about to die, yet you still don't know?" Bai Song and Pang Man immediately looked at each other and nodded slightly. Then, together, they formed a semicircle around Black Wind City. Everyone, all the war beasts rushed forward and easily surrounded and killed the master of Black Wind City. Captain Wild Bull stepped on the unwilling head of the master of Black Wind City, who was on the verge of death. He bent down and stared at Black Wind's pained eyes. He felt a great sense of satisfaction in his heart. "Black Wind, do you have any last words? Haven't you heard of the famous saying, 'When the birds are gone, the good bough is hidden. When the cunning rabbit dies, the dog is cooked'? The Emerald Lord had long had the intention to kill your dog, and you still thought that you were doing it secretly. Speak, what else do you want to say before you die? Do you want to repent? Unfortunately, it's too late. Wild Bull, don't forget, you are also a pitiful lackey." Black Wind closed his eyes in pain. Boom! Hearing this, Wild Bull's face darkened. He angrily stepped on Black Wind's head and crushed it. "Do you think I'm you? You will never understand what my identity is. Isn't he just a boy toy for me to play with? I've been a little tired of you lately." Suddenly, an elegant voice, like that of a noble who was tired of eating delicacies, rang out from behind Captain Wild Bull. Captain Wild Bull was stunned at first, then he turned around and looked at the shadow behind him. His entire body trembled, and with a look of disbelief, he asked, "What did you say? Is this true? I need more fresh dolls. It's impossible for me to only love one in my life. I'm getting tired of you." The tall shadow behind him fiercely punched Captain Wild Bull's chest. His tone was incomparably heartless. "You are just a dog that I raised. When the cunning rabbit dies, the dog is cooked. Since Black Wind is dead, you can also die." Pfft! Captain Wild Bull suffered a blow both physically and mentally, causing him to vomit blood. He fell to the ground in pain. Looking at Black Wind, who had lost his head, he suddenly felt a sense of sympathy for the death of a rabbit. How similar was he to Black Wind? However, he had been betrayed even more thoroughly. He thought that the Emerald Lord, who could dedicate everything to him, had actually said such chilling words. The blow of this sentence was even more painful than that life-threatening punch. He had sacrificed so much, and all he got in return was "You're just a dog I raised?" Before the crowd surrounded him, Wild Bull quietly made an extremely secretive movement with his left hand. Then, Wild Bull was easily dismembered, but he did not die. His soul was parasitized in a rock underground. No one knew, not even the Emerald Lord, that Wild Bull had a special skill of Rock Man. As long as the Emerald Lord left this place, he would launch a shocking revenge. With everything he knew, he would leak out. Wild Bull swore that he would do his best to take revenge on the Emerald Lord. Of course, not now. In order to avoid the detection of the extremely suspicious Emerald Lord, he had to be in a state of suspended animation. Moreover, his soul had just been sent into the rock, so he needed time to adapt. Half a year later, when he recovered from his state of suspended animation, it would be the time of the Emerald Lord's misfortune. Before his consciousness fell into a state of suspended animation, the Wild Bull could still hear the Emerald Lord instructing General Jean Feng to get a substitute for the master of Black Wind City. As for the Wild Bull Thief Guild, it was directly destroyed to make a good name for itself before the cross-border war. With the last sentence, Wild Bull, who had fallen into a state of suspended animation, heard the Emerald Lord mock him. Useless dog talent, no matter how good your skills are, how can you compare to the Chrysanthemum clan male pet I found? With a destructive vengeance, Captain Wild Bull fell into a state of suspended animation and stopped thinking. In the eyes of the outside world, he was completely dead. This was because this state of suspended animation would cause the true death of the physical body. Those war beasts that did not betray him would all die together. In short, no one would have thought that after his physical body died, he would still be able to revive in the state of a rock man. The Wild Bull, who had fallen into a state of suspended animation, did not see it. When Yu Yang put away the creation domain, and when Shui Wuxia cooperatively put away the divine sense domain, there were no battles in the surroundings. The Emerald Lord, the master of Black Wind City, General Jin Feng, sect leader Bai Song, Pang Man, and the others were all gone. As for his soulless body, it lay quietly on the ground. His body was not torn apart, but his consciousness and soul were dormant in a rock underground. Grey Wolf dug the rock out of the soil with 2 claws, chanted, and placed it in front of Yu Yang. Then, he made a V gesture at the golden flaming lion, indicating for it to learn. This was a very arrogant gesture. Of course, it was learned from its master. In this world, he was the only watchdog that could make such a gesture. This was what Grey Wolf was most proud of. All the war beasts that had betrayed the Wild Bull, whether it was the Golden Belt Tauran warrior with well-developed limbs or the Thunder Beast with crackling electric arcs all over its body, could not understand what was going on. Why did all the Heaven Stage experts disappear in the blink of an eye? And there was only a group of humans in the field? On the other side, there were 2 people with ashen faces, Fei Huang and Hua Ban. Only now did they understand that everything was an illusion, a real illusion. There had never been a battle, there had never been a master of Black Wind City, there had never been an Emerald Lord, and there had never been a betrayal. The only thing that was real was that the Wild Bull was indeed dead. He wasn't dismembered, but he definitely wouldn't be able to survive, because his body no longer had any consciousness or soul. This is very boring. I think it's better to just chop people down. Princess Sisai pulled out her bronze greatsword and pointed at Fei Huang and Hua Ban. You guys can choose one at random. Otherwise, you guys will always say that I always choose the strongest when I chop people. Roar. The first to pounce was the golden flaming lion. It recognized the flaming lion king. Back then, it was this flaming lion king that had captured it, locked it in a cage by Captain Wild Bull, and sold it to the arena to fight beasts. Fortunately, the arena had rioted and he had taken the opportunity to escape. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Right now, the Flaming Lion King was like a stray dog. How could he not take this opportunity to beat the dog when it was down? Chapter 7:12. If it was said that the Golden Flaming Lion and the Flaming Lion King were only evenly matched for the time being, then the Thunder Beast was depressed, because it had met a Bronze Level 3 Divine Beast that was actually pretending to be a pig to eat a tiger. Hui Tai Lang deliberately showed off his might in front of his new little brother, the Golden Flaming Lion, to let the other party know that even if it was a war beast of Heaven Stage, it was still his little brother. It who had the strength to challenge the Golden Clear Demon Bull King or the Golden Belt Tauran Warrior, actually went to fight the weakest Thunder Beast. How could the Thunder Beast not be depressed? Lightning. What the Thunder Beast was best at was lightning. However, this move was useless against Hui Tai Lang. Not to mention the fact that it had fused with the Holy Tear Dark Sacred Armor. Even without it, it was not afraid of the electric current at all. With the ability to transform into liquid silver, electric energy was practically a tonic for it. Seeing his opponent condense all the electric energy into an electric ball and swallow it in one gulp, the Thunder Beast's originally silver-white face became even paler, deathly pale. Hui Tai Lang's tail wrapped around the holy tear dark demon scythe and slashed out with earth-splitting slash. Although it couldn't reach the power of Yu Yang, the demon scythe that had fused with the dark sacred sword was not easy to bear. With every swing, there would be an obvious wound on the thunder beast's steel-like body, and a stream of purplish-blue blood would flow out. Other than the earth-splitting slash, Hui Tai Lang was also proficient in the great totem battle skill. He had sparred with Fatty Hai and the others a lot. Fatty Hai's hippopotamus meteor fist was not as exquisite as it. Pa. The more Hui Tai Lang fought, the happier he became. He pressed down on the thunder beast and gave it a good beating, slapping it left and right. In the end, the thunder beast didn't even get angry. It fainted, its eyes rolled back, its limbs went limp, and it lay on the ground with its belly facing the sky. Hui Tai Lang did not care about this small victory at all. He summoned his grimoire and took out a golden cup watch that he had forcefully snatched from Fatty Hai. Looking at the time, it was 2 minutes and 58 seconds. In less than 3 minutes, he had beaten down a heaven-stage thunder beast. Hui Tai Lang was proud. He immediately took out a notebook and a pen and drew the appearance of the thunder beast. Then, he dipped it in the thunder beast's blood and stamped a paw print on the notebook, indicating that he had successfully KO'd this opponent. It turned out that Fatty Hai had come up with this idea unintentionally when he was drunk. In the end, he did not manage to persevere, but Grey Wolf learned it well. This caused Fatty Hai to feel a lot of pressure when he saw the densely packed KO records in Hui Tai Lang's notebook. The Golden Flaming Lion and the Flaming Lion King fought fiercely, and for a moment they were neck and neck. From the looks of it, without an hour or two, it was unlikely that the victor would be decided. The golden-eyed Demon Bull King, who was at the second level of Heaven stage, against the master of Luohua City, even if she didn't summon the Nirvana Sunflower, just the Aurora and the near-perfect Snow Fox Girl were enough to make it roar repeatedly and become a target to be beaten. The Snow Fox Lady waved her hands, and countless flowers were thrown out from her hands. It was as beautiful as a celestial maiden scattering flowers. Of course, the power of these attacks did not come from the tender petals of the flowers, but from the fragrance of the flowers. The enraged golden-eyed Devil Bull King fell into a deep slumber under the combination of the fragrant sleeping flower and the saliva of Dream Dragon. Its strength, its anger, and its strong physique could not be an effective existence in resisting sleep. If needed, the City Lord of Fallen Flowers could use little to blind its eyes at any time. She could also use the Nirvana Sunflower to cut off its neck. But she didn't do that. The City Lord of Fallen Flowers only used the Aurora again and again to wake the golden-eyed Devil Bull King up. Then, she let the Snow Fox Lady hypnotize it again, causing the golden-eyed Devil Bull King to fall into an endless cycle of sobriety, pain, anger, sleep, and sobriety. It wasn't just it. Even the wild bull bandits in the Lion King Valley had fallen asleep under the effect of the sleeping dragon fragrance. Large groups of them fell to the ground. The Golden Belt Tauren warrior was a creature that was famous in the Heaven Realm for its thirst for battle. As long as they fought, no matter what opponent they faced, even if it was a Heaven Realm dragon, they would be fearless. Their brains were also filled with muscles. In this world, nothing could satisfy their bloodthirsty hearts more than fighting. Regardless of how the situation developed, it roared like thunder and charged towards Yu Yang's group. Just as the fist was about to hit Yu Yang, it realized that its body had stopped and could no longer move forward. It, whose reaction was already a little slow, was slightly stunned and turned around. It discovered that a female barbarian bull was using a chain to hold its arm from afar and was immediately enraged. In front of the Tauren race, what other race dared to challenge Riss' strength? It was fine if it was the size of an ancient dragon or an ancient titan, but the female barbarian bull behind him was half his size. Did she dare to compete with him, a Golden Belt Tauren warrior? Roar! The Golden Belt Tauren warrior erupted with tremendous strength. Its hooves stepped deeply into the ground, and the blood vessels on its thick arms bulged like earthworms. Under such a huge force, even a mammoth would fall to the ground in response. However, the foolish Tauren warrior did not know that the female barbarian bull behind him was a terrifying goddess of war who possessed the strength of a titan and the heart of earth. As long as she stood on the ground, no race could defeat her. With an incredulous expression, the Golden Belt Tauren warrior realized that it was being pulled by the opponent step by step. It had clearly used all of its strength, but the opponent's strength was unstoppable. The god-binding chains were also being pulled so hard that they rattled, and electric currents flashed. The Golden Belt Tauren warrior staggered under Ahman's pull. It tried to stand firm and use its strength to turn the tables, but it was destined to fail. Unless it could pull up the entire earth, it would not be able to pull up Ahman, who had become one with the earth. The Golden Belt Tauren warrior was enraged. Its eyes turned blood-red due to anger. It waved its huge ox-head axe, preparing to kill the female barbarian bull who had brought shame to its heart. However, before the ox-head axe could slash down, before Hui Tai Lang could absorb the cloud-collapsing thunderhammer, the holy weapon that the Black Hell King had carefully collected for thousands of years, appeared in Ahman's hands. The hammer smashed down, hitting the Golden Belt Tauren warrior's huge head. After being ambushed, even the giant Loli, who was from the ancient Titan royal family, was knocked unconscious on the spot. The power of the cloud-collapsing thunderhammer was not something that the Tauren warrior, who had no defense and was only focused on attacking, could resist. The Tauren warrior fell to the ground on the spot. Its eyes rolled back. It foamed at the mouth. Ahman first kicked away the huge ox-head battle axe, then snatched the golden belt, and finally swung the bat like he was playing baseball. Hui Tai Lang had already cooperated with Yu Yang many times, so it immediately ran out. It grabbed the Tauren warrior who was still unconscious and threw it high up. When the enemy fell down, it used its dark magic scythe to hit the Tauren warrior, sweeping it towards Ahman like a baseball bat. Boom! Ahman imitated Yu Yang's usual attack posture and unleashed her greatest strength. The moment the Tauren warrior flew over, a cloud-collapsing thunder hammer struck the enemy's head, directly sending the Tauren warrior flying 1,000 meters away. Like a cannonball, it smashed into the rocks and almost caused the mountain to collapse. Captain Raging Flames was both envious and shocked. This move was too ruthless, wasn't it? She reckoned that even if the Heaven Stage Level 2 Tauren warrior didn't die, he would still be crippled. However, this kind of move that was used to oppress the enemy was really cool. If she cooperated with Ahman, the effect would probably be even better. Captain Raging Flames felt an itch in her heart. She imagined herself standing in front of Ahman. When Ahman hit the Tauren warrior over, she would hit it into the sky. That kind of feeling was too great. Good ball. Yu Yang gave Ahman a thumbs up to praise her. Meow. Hui Tai Lang expressed that his tacit understanding was also worthy of praise. On the other side of the battlefield, Fei Huang, who had originally felt incomparably humiliated and furious, was now becoming more and more alarmed. Never in his wildest dreams would he have thought that the person who came to challenge him would actually be the weakest in the group. She was only a little girl at the second level of Earth Stage. She actually wanted to fight a Heaven Stage expert like him? Fei Huang felt a great sense of humiliation. He was the kind of proud Heaven Stage expert who would rather be beaten to death than be looked down upon. If it was the master of Black Wind City who defeated him, then Fei Huang would feel a little better now. He discovered that he was facing a human girl who was only at the second level of Earth Stage. With this kind of strength, you want to challenge me? He suspected that if he blew a breath of air, the other party would be blown away by the wind. What made Fei Huang the most speechless was that the little girl was actually a warrior who specialized in plant type. Didn't she know that her war beast, Calamity Locust, was the nemesis of plant-type war beasts? Fei Huang believed that he only needed 10 seconds, no, 3 seconds or even 1 second to kill this little girl on the spot. The two giant tree ants looked very powerful, but in front of the Calamity Locust, no matter what kind of plant-type warbeast it was, they would all be able to eat them up. Was there any warbeast in this world that could restrain plant-type warbeasts more than the Calamity Locust? Maybe there was, but Fei Huang had never seen it before. Eat them all. Fei Huang waved his hand and ordered millions of Calamity Locusts to rush forward and eat up the Titan ancient tree. Whip! Yu Bing's face was filled with seriousness. In a battle against such a nemesis, she had to put in 200% of her focus. She absolutely could not let the enemy catch even the slightest flaw. Millions of Calamity Locusts blotted out the sky. Each and every one of them was faster than lightning, rolling down like dark clouds. Although a small number of them were whipped by the Titan ancient tree's tree arms and died miserably on the ground. But even more Calamity Locusts were piled on the two Titan ancient trees. It was densely packed. They had become like two Calamity Locust people, clinging to the body of the Titan ancient tree. Each of them opened their teeth that could devour everything and bit at the Titan ancient tree with all their might. Not to mention two tree ants, even if it was a forest, they would be able to eat it clean in a short period of time. The most terrifying thing was that other than having powerful steel teeth, the Calamity Locust could also secrete a kind of acid and plague that could soften everything. There was no plant-type skin in the world that could resist their gnawing. Victory! Fei Huang didn't need to look to know that he had won. Not to mention the naturally restrained plant-type warbeasts, even other warbeasts were nothing more than a pile of bones in front of the millions of Calamity Locust. Defeating such an opponent was not something to be happy about. On the contrary, it was a kind of humiliation. Fei Huang felt that he had been underestimated by the enemy and was extremely angry. But very quickly, his anger was extinguished as if someone had poured a bucket of cold water over his head. What replaced it was astonishment. Unbelievable astonishment. All the Calamity Locust that had eaten the leaves on the top of the Titan ancient tree fell to the ground like a rain of locusts. They, who could digest all things, all died suddenly. They had the acid that could digest steel, but they didn't care about resisting the poison. These Calamity Locusts that had eaten the leaves all died a violent death. As for the Calamity Locusts that were attached to the tree trunk and gnawing on the bark, they discovered that the plague that could make the skin of all creatures fragile was ineffective against the bark of this big tree. The tough skin of the big tree made it so that they couldn't bite off even a small piece, even with all their strength. Chapter 7:13. Intense Poison? What a potent poison! Of course, his Calamity Locust did not have an immortal body, but he also knew how strong his Calamity Locust's poison resistance was. Even if he ate the extremely poisonous bone clan or the demonic venomous flower that was famous for its poison, the Calamity Locust would still be able to easily eat it, and his body would not have any abnormal reactions. Even if the Calamity Locust was immersed in the poison, it would only drown and not die from the poison. Now they were poisoned to death on the spot just by nibbling on a few leaves. What kind of concept was this? This was even more unbelievable than the flaming Lion King being burned to death. Fei Huang raised his fist. The beast might be very strong, but the master was too weak. As long as he waved his fist, this little girl would die. It was impossible for two tree ants and one green light tree demoness to defeat him. It's over. Fei Huang saw that the thunder beast in the distance had failed, and the Tauren warrior had also been defeated. His own Calamity Locust could not do anything to the other party's tree ant, and his companion Huaban was entangled by the other little girl who could condense petals with spiritual force and had a spirit mirror. If he did not win, he reckoned that his entire army would be wiped out. Fei Huang looked outside the battlefield and saw a woman with a bronze greatsword on her back standing beside the heroic swordswoman. There was also a woman with a dragon-slaying spear in her hand and a little panda girl. He flew at top speed and appeared in front of Yu Bing. With the power of heaven rank, he threw a punch at her face. Fei Huang did not have the slightest bit of tenderness towards the fairer sex. Under the watchful eyes of so many enemies, he only wanted to quickly end the battle and leave this place. Killing this little girl who was good at plants was only the first time. His second time was to kill the sword-wielding and spear-wielding woman. They were probably a little more difficult to deal with, but Fei Huang was confident in his speed and strength. Even without the help of the Calamity Locust, he was still a heaven-rank powerhouse. Moreover, he had the ability to transform and condense his body. Unless he was a heaven-rank 3 or above powerhouse, no one could easily kill him. Rumble! A punch in the air, the fierce fist aura blasted a huge pit on the ground. Fei Huang discovered that the little girl had disappeared without a trace. What he had just hit was only the afterimage she had left behind. "I won't lose to you," a firm voice sounded from behind Fei Huang. Needless to say, Fei Huang knew that it must be that human girl with a determined face. His courage was commendable, but he had too little experience. Just the fact that she had opened her mouth to speak had already exposed her identity. It was enough to make her die a tragic death. Fei Huang sneered in his heart. He did not turn around and punched angrily behind him. The terrifying power of a heaven-ranked powerhouse burst out. Just when Fei Huang thought that the little girl was dead for sure and would definitely be smashed to pieces by his fist, he found that his fist had hit a hard object that was as hard as an iron wall. The recoil caused his fist to feel a trace of pain. Although his bones were fine, his skin had been shaken to the point of cracking. Fresh blood. Drop by drop, they fell to the ground. Only then did Fei Huang realize that at some point in time, a giant tree had already appeared behind him. This was not what shocked him the most. He discovered that the blood that dripped onto the ground had turned dark green, and the grass that was stained with green blood was rapidly withering. Even with the strength of Heaven Stage, Fei Huang still felt dizzy. Poison, a poison that could seal the throat upon contact with blood. Fei Huang panicked. He took out a bottle of golden poison dispelling pills from his storage ring. This was a poison dispelling pill refined by a Heaven Realm alchemy master using demonic beast cores and demonic insect flower juice. It was worth 100,000 gold coins each. It was an extremely expensive pill that even a Heaven Stage powerhouse would feel heartache for. Fei Huang raised his neck and swallowed the 3 poison-dispelling pills. He crushed another one and applied it to the wound on the back of his right hand. With his experience, even if it was a fatal poison that could kill a Heaven Stage powerhouse within a minute, a poison-dispelling pill would be able to neutralize it. For the sake of insurance, this was the first time Fei Huang had swallowed 3 poison-dispelling pills in a row. If it weren't for the fact that the Calamity Locust couldn't withstand the poison, he wouldn't have slapped 300,000 gold coins into his mouth. The poison-dispelling pill entered his throat and dissolved into liquid. It was indeed worthy of being the masterpiece of an alchemy master. Fei Huang felt his mind clear up. The wound on the back of his hand that had been smeared with the poison-dispelling pill powder also quickly turned red. That was close. Seeing that the poison-dispelling pill was effective in detoxifying the poison, Fei Huang couldn't care less about his heartache. He secretly thanked his lucky stars that he had spent 1,000,000 gold to buy this bottle of pills. Otherwise, he would have been defeated by a human girl at the 2nd level of Earth Stage. The poison of these 2 trees was too terrifying. When Fei Huang saw the little girl staring at him with her big eyes, a sense of pride rose in his heart. Although you have 2 poisonous trees, you're still too weak. Fei Huang raised his hand, and a large cloud of plague formed by the Calamity Locust flew towards Yu Bing. At the same time, he threw out an invisible and colorless dark fist. After being hit by this dark fist, The other party's body would definitely explode, and he would die in incomparable pain. A heaven stage powerhouse isn't something a little girl at the second level of Earth stage like you can provoke. With the strength of your entire body, it's not even enough for a heaven stage punch. Pfft. Borrowing the calamity locust that filled the sky, Fei Huang, who had thrown out the dark fist, suddenly spat out a mouthful of green blood. Then, the dizziness from being poisoned returned. What surprised Fei Huang the most was that strange little human girl. She actually leaped into the air, as if she could see the dark fist. Stepping on it, she used the force to jump and instantly arrived in front of him. How did she do it? Fei Huang didn't even have time to find the answer to this riddle. He found that his raised hand was weak and powerless, and the opponent's speed had doubled under the support of the green light tree demoness. 18 kicks in a row. His legs all hit his face, causing Fei Huang to be unable to find his bearings. Fei Huang staggered back a few steps and looked at his hand in fear. His hand had turned dark green. No, it should be his entire body that had turned green. The poison just now wasn't cured? A poison that even 100,000 gold coins worth of poison-dispelling pill couldn't cure? While Fei Huang was dizzy, he hurriedly took out the bottle and swallowed the remaining 6 poison-dispelling pills like beans. When the pill entered his body, the liquid slid into his stomach and intestines. His mind became clear and his mind became clear. However, the green color under his skin, after slightly fading, quickly grew denser. Looking at his pair of dark green hands, Fei Huang pointed at Yu Bing and cried out, "It's not those 2 trees, it's you. Are you the one who's working? Your talent is poison? Mr. Locust, it's not that my poison is powerful, it's that your poison resistance is too poor." When Yu Bing saw the other party's horrified expression, she shook her head in embarrassment. She felt that it was a little unfair, so she added, "This poison will increase more and more as you fight. Ah, if you don't want to die, then lie down quietly and wait for my brother to come over. You can just surrender to him." What a pity, I thought I would be able to have a good fight, but I didn't expect your poison resistance to be too weak. Fei Huang felt a great shame. As a heaven stage cultivator, he was actually looked down upon and pitted by a little girl of Earth stage level 2. He was so angry that he almost committed suicide. However, committing suicide was really vexing. Fei Huang gritted his teeth and finally lay on the ground, making what he thought was the most humiliating posture in his life to save his life. He knew that if it was true strength, it would be impossible for the little girl to defeat him. The problem was that her poison talent was too terrifying. If he accidentally broke a little of his skin, he would become a poison man. If he had been careful just now and used the method of guerrilla warfare, defeating this little girl probably wouldn't have been too difficult. He had been careless today. Seeing Yu Bing's back as she left, Fei Huang wanted to slap himself twice in the face. The little human girl of Earth stage level 2 had won and left. The super expert of Heaven stage level 1 was lying on the ground like a turtle that had turned over. What was this? Compared to Fei Huang, Hua Ban was much more cautious. However, he found that the enemy he encountered was even more difficult to deal with. This human girl, who was riding a silver-horned Pegasus and had 2 hallucinatory butterfly demons and a spirit mirror, actually possessed a powerful spiritual force. In addition to raising a huge spiritual energy field, she also condensed her spiritual force into petals. Facing such an enemy, the long-tailed leopard became a tragedy. Although it was strong, it was almost destroyed by the abilities of the 2 hallucinatory butterfly demons. Pollen paralysis coupled with the mental nightmare torture, the long-tailed leopard was about to go crazy. It turned into a golden light and shot towards Anan like an aurora. However, in front of the spirit mirror, the long-tailed leopard pounced like an arrow, turning into a hidden weapon that attacked its master. Hua Ban had no choice but to order the long-tailed leopard to withdraw from the battlefield and save the poisoned Fei Huang. Right now, it didn't matter if he could defeat the enemy or figure out what was going on. Right now, what Hua Ban wanted to do the most was to escape. As long as he could escape successfully, he would pay any price. Let me do it. Drunken Cat rushed ahead of Princess Sisai, and together with the little panda girl Nyonyo, they faced the dusty long-tailed leopard. How boring! When can I have a good fight? Princess Qian Qian stretched her beautiful waist, causing Yu Yang, who was walking over, to light up his wolf eyes. Your Highness, soon. After we finish beating this guy, we'll pretend to be Captain Wild Bull and kill the master of Black Wind City. We'll let the Lionheart King and the Emerald Lord fight each other. Not half a month later? Princess Sisai was stunned. All is fair in war. How can there be a fair duel? That's not something a smart person would do. Yu Yang smiled. Captain Raging Flames felt that this guy's name should be called Disdain, and his real name should be Shameless. Was there anyone as wicked as him? He had clearly arranged for a decisive battle in half a month, but he had actually made his move in advance and launched a sneak attack. Captain Raging Flames couldn't imagine what the expressions of the Emerald Lord, Lionheart King and the others, who had been foolishly waiting for the decisive battle in half a month, would look like after being played around with by this brat Yu Yang. However, she believed that this was Yu Yang's plan. Tong Tian Tower's strength wasn't enough, so it was impossible for Yu Yang to use Sky Execution and the others to fight against the experts of the Southern Heaven Realm. Moreover, this would easily reveal the true secret. If the clown returned, or if he found out that there were no Tong Tian, Long Ting, or Sky Demon forces in the Western Heaven Realm, the other party would definitely be suspicious. Perhaps even the Lionheart King and the other Heaven Stage Kings would participate. Set up an ambush and kill them to obtain the secrets of Tong Tian Tower. Yu Yang had launched a sneak attack in advance. It could be said that this was the best time. The problem was, this brat had openly made an agreement with the other party, and within a few days, he had torn up the agreement and stabbed the unsuspecting master of Black Wind City in the back. Furthermore, he had done it in the name of the Emerald Lord's subordinate, Wild Bull. This was too shameless in terms of morality and morality. But forget it, Yu Yang had never done this before. Raging Flames shook her head helplessly. Ah, Raging Flames? At first, Hua Ban didn't pay attention, but Raging Flames followed Yu Yang closer. Moreover, she had already taken off her invisible cloak. With her unique appearance and flame-like hair, even a blind person could recognize her as the female giant. As soon as Hua Ban saw Raging Flames, he felt despair. This lady was a famous female giant in the Southern Heaven Realm. She was at the 5th level of Heaven Stage and had obtained the inheritance of the giant dragon. To the leader of the Heaven Stage thieves, she was an existence akin to a calamity. What was there to fight? Hua Ban screamed, I surrender, Captain Raging Flames, I am Hua Ban. We worked together in Golden Rain City before, do you still remember? Please allow me and Fei Huang to surrender to you. It's useless to ask me. The real boss here is this brat. Raging Flames pointed at Yu Yang, indicating that she would listen to him. It can't be? Hua Ban was dumbfounded. Could such a stubborn female giant like Raging Flames be tamed? Could it be that he had misheard? What was the background of this brat? He was actually able to make Raging Flames, whom even the Lionheart King and the other king-level rankers could not subdue, obey his orders. Chapter 7:14. Yu Yang's attitude towards the captives was quite good. Although he had tacitly allowed Grey Wolf to beat up Hua Ban and Fei Huang, without exception, he had at least not built a concentration camp to skin people. Hua Ban and Fei Huang, who had been beaten into a pig's head, could only grit their teeth and endure the humiliation. They felt that they still had a bright future ahead of them and didn't want to die here in vain. Resisting was nonsense. Not to mention anything else, Just Captain Raging Flames alone could kill the two of them in an instant, not to mention the young man who could make Captain Raging Flames listen to his orders. When the other party put on that special Gemini mask, Hua Ban and Fei Huang immediately understood who they had fallen into. A masked man who could beat up old Demon Wei, that madman, to the point of looking for his teeth on the ground. He was the most mysterious expert of the three great sects in the Western Heaven Realm. After being defeated by his hands, Hua Ban and Fei Huang had nothing to say. As for the Captain Wild Bull who had turned into a rock, there was no need to guess. He must have been tricked by this brat. When I eat meat, I don't mind others drinking some soup. Yu Yang warned the two pig-headed Hua Ban and Fei Huang. The Wild Bull Thief group will continue to be led by you. I don't care what you do, but you must leave the Emerald Territory. You can pick out all the people from the Wild Bull faction. I still have use for them. Finally, I will only say this once. Remember who gave you this bowl of rice. Don't play tricks in secret. Otherwise, you will have two choices. One is to become fertilizer, and the other is dog food. Hua Ban and Fei Huang looked at Grey Wolf and shivered inwardly. They quickly nodded. Roar, roar, roar! The battle between the Golden Flaming Lion and the Flaming Lion King had reached its climax. When the two lions of equal strength fought, it was originally difficult to determine who was stronger. The Golden Flaming Lion's body had a stronger defense, and its mind was smarter. The Flaming Lion King's level was slightly higher, and as a king, its aura and pressure had multiplied. Most importantly, it had captured the Golden Flaming Lion before, so it was more confident in battle. If it wasn't for the fact that the Captain Wild Bull had already turned into a rock and the Flaming Lion King had lost its powerful support, it would have been difficult for the Golden Flaming Lion to defeat such a powerful enemy in a short period of time. Following the fainting of the Thunder Beast, the defeat of the Tauren Warrior with the Golden Belt, the coma of the Golden-Eyed Demon Bull King, and the surrender of the two Heaven Stage Fei Huang and Hua Ban, the confidence of the Flaming Lion King gradually collapsed. Its morale was greatly reduced, and it wanted to escape several times, but the Golden Flaming Lion firmly entangled it. The two lions fought fiercely while bathed in blood, unable to gain the upper hand. An hour passed. 2 hours passed. The two of them had yet to decide the winner. Yu Yang was not in the mood to wait for the battle to end, so he returned to the Grimoire world to rest, leaving the bored and yawning Hui Tai Lang to supervise the battle. By the time Yu Yang had finished resting, the Golden Flaming Lion had already won. It was bathed in blood as it proudly stood on the enemy's corpse, roaring towards the sky in high spirits. Fei Huang and Hua Ban had also officially taken over the Wild Bull Bandit. They had also tied up more than 100 fellow villagers, old subordinates, and personal guards who were loyal to the Wild Bull outside the Lion King Valley to wait for Yu Yang's trial. Actually, the reason why I called you here is for a very simple matter. Yu Yang said, Captain Wild Bull was besieged by Black Wind, by Song, Pang Man, Jin Feng, and old Demon Wei last night. Unfortunately, he died, and now his soul has left his body and turned into a rock. I believe that some of you who are most familiar with him will know that he has this ability to escape. As his good friend, I have decided to stand up without hesitation, avenge him, and start a war against the treacherous master of Black Wind City and his allies. Cough cough. When Fei Huang heard this, he almost choked to death on his saliva. May I know what you want me to do for you? Niu Zhen, the flatterer, stood up, bowed, and asked respectfully. It's hard to say when Captain Wild Bull will wake up from the rock. Even if he wakes up, he won't be able to return to his original state in an instant. During his hibernation, the two Heaven Stage warriors, Fei Huang and Hua Ban, would be in charge of the guild's affairs. You are the elders of the guild, and you are also the guild leader's most trusted hands and feet. Of course, the two vice guild leaders, Fei Huang and Hua Ban, will not treat you unfairly. In view of your outstanding contributions to the guild in the future, The two guild leaders have decided to divide 1/10 of the guild's assets equally among you. After obtaining the assets, it would be even better if you were willing to stay in the guild and contribute your strength. If you want to go back and be a comfortable rich man, no one will stop you. Yu Yang expressed that the policy was very open. As long as they knew how to stand in line, it would be easy. The master of Black Wind City and the guild leader have been good friends for many years. This time, the guild leader led us to support the master of Black Wind City. How could he be ungrateful? How could he bring people to attack the guild leader? It's easy for you to kill us, but don't even think about tricking us into revealing the secret location of the guild leader's belongings. A super loyal subordinate of the Wild Bull, the captain of the Wild Bull's personal guard, cursed loudly. I don't want to explain. Yu Yang shook his head. Howl! Grey Wolf pounced on him. Even if I die, I won't reveal the secret location of the treasure. That guy thought that Grey Wolf was going to eat him, so he resisted his fear and shouted loudly. Grey Wolf waved his claws and shattered the chains on his body, releasing that guy. Yu Yang waved his hand at him. You can go. If you don't believe me, you can ask the master of Black Wind City, or secretly ask around. At that time, I believe you will understand what the truth is. That guy was a little dizzy. Was he really going to let him go? It can't be so easy. In fact, it wasn't just him. Everyone had their black iron chains shattered by Grey Wolf. They looked at each other in dismay. No one dared to believe this result. No one dared to leave, afraid that Yu Yang would go back on his word and kill them. Only the boldest personal guard captain, with a heroic spirit on the surface, was the first to stand out of the group. Looking at Fei Huang and Hua Ban's expressions, he felt that they didn't have any killing intent. His courage rose again, and he flew away like lightning. Seeing him disappear for a long time, no one dared to follow him until Yu Yang said, All of you disperse. If I want to kill you, I don't need to wait until now. I can do it at any time. Whether you believe it or not, the truth is the truth. I, who you don't know, am the Wild Bull's good friend, and the Wild Bull's ally, Black Wind, is the enemy who besieged him. Seeing that Yu Yang, Fei Huang, and Hua Ban didn't stop them, these people were as anxious as a spark. One by one, they quickly fled in all directions. Several of them even turned their heads to see if there were any enemies behind them. However, Yu Yang didn't react at all. The people who left safely left the valley and ran hundreds of kilometers away. Only then did they secretly heave a sigh of relief. So the other party really did let them go. Strange, why would he be so kind as to let them go? Could it be that he really was the guild leader's good friend, and Black Wind was really the murderer who killed the guild leader? If he wasn't a good friend and knew that the guild leader's soul was sleeping in the rock, he would be able to kill the guild leader with a single punch. Why would he leave the hidden danger behind? Besides, he had already captured all of these 100 people. If he wanted to kill them, it would be as easy as blowing off dust. Why would he let everyone go? Everyone left. Wouldn't that reveal his secret? If he wasn't afraid of revealing his secret, then he might be real. After escaping for hundreds of kilometers, almost everyone gathered at a small village that they had agreed on beforehand to discuss important matters. The loyal members, led by the first personal guard captain, decided not to go to the secret treasure trove to avoid being tracked by the other party. They would first go to Black Wind City to investigate the truth. If it was true, then everyone would dig out all the treasures and change to another place. They definitely couldn't let any outsiders obtain them. Regardless of whether the other party was a good friend of the guild leader or not, they couldn't reveal the location of the treasure, much less let him obtain it. In case the guild leader was unable to recover, these people voted to use 80% of the funds from the treasure trove for the bounty on the master of Black Wind City and the murderer, and 20% for everyone's expenses. They quarreled and discussed for a long time before coming to a decision. At the same time, Yu Yang, under Niu Zhen's lead, had already headed towards the treasure trove of the Wild Bull Guild leader. Niu Zhen was a smart and observant flatterer. He had wanted to surrender before, but when he saw Yu Yang's expression, he secretly nodded and didn't say anything. He left with the crowd, but he quickly returned. Under the astonished gazes of Fei Huang and Hua Ban, he presented Yu Yang with the true location of the treasure trove. Only I know where the guild leader's treasure trove is, because I was the one who did the construction of the entire treasure trove and the tidying up of the treasures. In the hands of the guild leader, there are only a few of the best treasures. The rest of the treasures are all placed in that place under my arrangement. Because I was born with no sense of direction when I was young, the guild leader was very at ease with me. Every time, he would cover my face and use a teleportation scroll to bring me into the secret cave. When I finished all kinds of tidying up work, he would bring me out again. The terrain outside was completely unknown, and he thought that I didn't know. He even gathered his trusted aides and told me about the fake treasure trove to show his sincerity towards his brothers. However, only I know that the real treasure trove is in another place. Niu Zhen reported to Yu Yang. How did you know about the Wild Bull's secret treasure trove? Yu Yang knew that this Niu Zhen must have some kind of special ability, but he was still a little curious. The Wild Bull Guild leader was definitely a cautious person. For Niu Zhen to be able to hide it from him and become the only one who knew, of course it was not a simple matter. I don't have any special abilities, but because I'm afraid of death, I'm good at observing other people's expressions. I found that every time I went to a place, the guild leader would secretly observe me, as if he wanted to see something on my face. After a few times, I began to have doubts and gradually became guesses. Could it be that the real treasure trove was in that place? Later, about 10 years later, when the captain's wariness was lowered, I swallowed a bottle of tears of the migrating turtle in secret. With the senses of the migrating turtle, I confirmed that the place where the treasure was kept was actually right under my nose where I least expected it to be, Niu Zhen confessed very honestly. Where is it? Fei Huang and Hua Ban asked anxiously. It's under the street between the city lord's mansion and the black market. The treasure trove is less than 100 meters away from the city lord's mansion and less than 50 meters away from the underground auction house of the black market. When Niu Ji said this, Fei Huang and Hua Ban were completely dumbfounded. It was too unexpected. The Wild Bull Guild leader's most secret treasure trove was actually at the edge of the black market auction house of Black Wind City. Sure enough, the most dangerous place was the safest. If the master of Black Wind City knew that he had been walking around the Wild Bull's treasure trove for many years without knowing it, his expression would be very beautiful. Yu Yang suddenly asked Niu Zhen, "Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you if you tell me the secret?" Niu Zhen respectfully replied, "How could a broad-minded lord like you, who has achieved great things, not tolerate a small ant like me? I'm not worried about my life at all. Of course, even if it was another master like the Wild Bull or Black Wind, I would still have a way to save my life. Why did the Wild Bull Guild leader use me to sort out his belongings and not kill me afterwards? The reason is very simple, because I'm a miser." Hua Ban was surprised and asked, "Miser?" Niu Zhen nodded and said, "That's right, I'm a natural miser. No matter how much money I have, I'm not willing to spend a single cent. Of course, that's not the main point. The reason why the Wild Bull values my miserliness is because he has a treasure called Miser's Treasure. No one can retrieve all the belongings after putting them into the Miser's Treasure, unless it's a miser like me." Chapter 7:15. Black Wind City. In the past few days, Black Wind City had been much calmer. Many bold merchants had even secretly opened their businesses to trade for all kinds of scarce good. Benefits could turn a coward into a warrior. In addition to bringing about immeasurable losses, the war also brought about endless business opportunities. Once this business opportunity was captured, countless merchants would rush to Black Wind City to make a fortune from the war. Within Black Wind City, only a small number of original residents and mercenaries had fled due to fear. However, more merchants had entered, making the city even more prosperous than before. The only regret was that the black market couldn't be officially opened yet, so the merchants couldn't maximize their profits. City Lord, the Wild Bull is here. It's just outside. The master of Black Wind City, who was discussing the war with Old Demon Wei, Bai Song, Pang Man, and the other Heaven Stage experts in the City Lord's mansion, received a report from General Jean Fong. It was not strange for Captain Wild Bull to come here to participate in the cross-border war. The master of Black Wind City had already made a secret agreement with the Wild Bull. The Wild Bull Thief Guild would attack the experts of the Western Heaven Realm as a third-party private army. However, Wild Bull, the leader of the thieves who could not see the light of day, was openly asking for an audience outside the City Lord's mansion. What was going on? Was he afraid that others wouldn't know that the location of the stolen goods was the black market of Black Wind City? Was he afraid that others wouldn't know that he was colluding with him? If he wanted to drink a cup of wine, he could just sneak in secretly. Why did he have to openly ask to see him outside the door? The master of Black Wind City's first feeling was that the Wild Bull wanted to use the cross-border war to extort him. He had to pay the price, or else this guy would hit him when he was down. Just a mere Wild Bull. This old man will go out and see how arrogant he is. Old Demon Wei had previously been beaten black and blue by Yu Yang, and was in a hurry to regain his face in the cross-border war. Old Demon Wei would definitely not allow anyone to cause trouble for the Wild Bull who had a disloyal heart. Of course, Old Demon Wei knew that the person behind the Wild Bull was the Emerald Lord, but now that the master of Black Wind City had already taken out 4/5 of his wealth and shared it with everyone, whoever squeezed out the blood of the Black Wind would be harming everyone's interests, so Old Demon Wei naturally wouldn't agree. I hope Elder Wei can preside over the overall situation. The master of Black Wind City quickly thanked him. Let's go out and take a look. Sect leader Bai Song's strength was inferior to Old Demon Wei's, but he had the assistance of Elder Qing Song and Elder Hong Song, so he was not weak. This time, he had received at least 1/10 of the master of Black Wind City's wealth, so there was no reason for him to watch the Wild Bull interfere. Outside the City Lord's mansion, the Wild Bull was waiting openly. Standing beside the Wild Bull were the two vice-captains, Fei Huang and Hua Ban. The two vice-captains had swollen faces that had not completely dissipated, as if they had fought a great battle before. In addition, there were more than a dozen men and women wearing cloaks that concealed their auras. Needless to say, these were the notorious members of the Wild Bull Bandit. The master of Black Wind City was surprised. The attire of these members was very normal, because the members of the Wild Bull Bandits were hated by everyone. Wherever they went, people would shout and beat them up, so it was normal for them to wear cloaks. But what was the meaning of the Wild Bull appearing in broad daylight? With the strength of Heaven Stage, he could ignore the bounty of the Heaven Realm mercenary group? Wild Bull, what are you doing? The master of Black Wind City was a little uncertain. The Wild Bull's stance didn't seem to be to help in the battle. Instead, it seemed like he was going to interrogate him. When did he offend him? Under the guise of a cross-border war, you conspired to betray the Emerald Territory and spread the flames of war to the outside world. Black Wind, although we've known each other for many years, I really didn't expect you to have such a strategy and courage. The Wild Bull sneered. If it wasn't for the fact that I was extremely vigilant and used a substitute to come here, I'm afraid I would have already become a ghost under your blade. What did you say? The master of Black Wind City was shocked. Although he had the intention to spread the flames of war to the Emerald Territory and then leave, he had not yet begun to implement it. You have a guest today. If I make a move, you will hypocritically tell the Lord that I, the Wild Bull, am taking advantage of you. Black Wind, I will come back tomorrow at noon. The wild bull waved his hand and left with Fei Huang and Huaban. Behind him, there were a dozen men and women standing quietly, but they didn't move at all. Seeing this, the master of Black Wind City's heart tightened, and he exclaimed, "Wild bull, aren't these your men? I have no fate to meet your esteemed guest." Captain Wild Bull sneered and left in a flash. If it was any other time, the master of Black Wind City would definitely chase after him and explain. However, the current him had no time to care about it. This was because the leader of the dozen or so men and women hiding in the cloak opened his cloak, revealing a special Gemini mask. This terrifying Gemini masked man had caused the master of Black Wind City to wake up from his nightmares more than a dozen times. His appearance was definitely not a good thing. They had clearly agreed to start the war in half a month. Why had he brought everyone here today? Of course, Yu Yang wouldn't tell the other party that he was going to tear up the contract and set him up. Instead, he sternly condemned the other party. "Master of Black Wind City, you kidnapped my Western Heaven Realm's alchemy master, Jun Wu Yi. Taking advantage of the ceasefire agreement, you despicably and shamelessly ambushed and killed the disciples of my Tong Tian, Long Ting, and Heavenly Demon sects. Although the higher heaven stage rankers have the intention to mediate the war between the Western Heaven Realm and the Southern Heaven Realm, a soldier can be killed but not humiliated. Taking advantage of the ceasefire period, you plotted to murder our sect's disciples. Our three sects swear to never compromise with the Southern Heaven Realm. We would rather fight to the last man than allow the humiliation to continue." Standing behind Yu Yang, Sky Execution, Dragon Emperor, Underworld Emperor and the others all tore off their cloaks, revealing their true faces. All of them were filled with killing intent. Black Wind almost fainted. His head was 3 times bigger. Now, even if he was a fool, he would still know what had happened. There must be someone with ulterior motives behind him. First, in his name, he attacked and killed the Wild Bull bandits, allowing him to completely cut off the Emerald Lord's path. Then, he attacked and killed the disciples of the 3 great sects, Tong Tian, Long Ting, and Sky Demon, which had just stopped fighting, triggering the biggest conflict. Once the 2-pronged conspiracy was carried out, there would be no way out for him to escape to heaven and no way out to hell. Kill! Yu Yang pretended to be angry and roared, "Shame must be washed with blood." Wait! Old Demon Wei still wanted to explain, but Black Wind sighed sadly. At this point, even if he explained, the other party wouldn't believe him. The person who stabbed him in the back was truly sinister. This method of borrowing a knife to kill someone and driving a tiger to swallow a wolf was truly too vicious. Who came up with this idea? Was it the rebel army? Or was it that stubborn Jew who? Actually, there was another person in Black Wind's heart. But he didn't dare to guess. He was afraid that if he guessed right, he would be even more terrified. As soon as Long Xiang left Black Wind City, the Wild Bull and the Masked Man came. What did this mean? Other than the super-strong king behind the Flying Dragon Special Forces, who else would have this kind of intelligence and power to easily shift the blame to him? Lionheart King, if I don't die, don't even think about having an easy time. The master of Black Wind City didn't dare to fight because he knew that the Masked Man's visit this time was different from before. This time, the Masked Man was here to kill, not to take back the alchemy master. The most likely reason was that the Lionheart King had already sent someone to tell the Masked Man that the alchemy master Jun Wu Yi had already died under the boulder. Moreover, when those juniors were attacking the town, the Lionheart King had sent people to kill a group of genius juniors, causing the 3 sects to be so angry that they disregarded the agreement and directly came to kill him. All of you can go and die. You despicable maggots, crawl into my life door and see what's waiting for you inside. Yu Yang was in the right now, so he naturally beat them when they were down. Facing several heaven stage enemies, he truly used the creation domain. If it was said that the previous creation domain was still compatible with Shui Wuxia's divine sense domain, then the current creation domain was completely independent. Similar to the power of the gate of life and death, the illusory reality was officially born in Yu Yang's creation domain. The enemy would see all the illusions of the inner demons in the domain. Although it was an illusion, it would be a real existence without any negation. Within a radius of 100 meters, all the scenery disappeared, turning into an empty sky. The master of Black Wind City and Old Demon Wei were the first to notice that something was wrong. They quickly gathered together, followed by Song, Qing Song, Hong Song, Pang Man, Hoka, Savi, Jin Feng, Lei Kai, and the others. Originally, with their strength, they shouldn't be afraid of any enemy below the 6th level of Heaven stage. However, they, who were trapped in Yu Yang's creation domain, felt uneasy from the bottom of their hearts. Too strange. In this space, no matter how he walked, he couldn't reach the end. None of the enemies who had been fighting were left. They had all disappeared without a trace. Even the buildings of the city lord's mansion that couldn't possibly disappear had disappeared. Everything had turned into nothingness. Old Demon Wei was the strongest. He was the first to notice a shadow swimming over from afar. What? The master of Black Wind City, Bai Song, and the others looked over and were also stunned. The azure-swallowing python that had been killed earlier, Old Demon Wei's original strongest war beast, had actually revived at some point in time. Everyone knew that it was fake because it had died a long time ago. However, no one could deny it, because even its master, Old Demon Wei, couldn't see any flaws in it. Alive, the azure-swallowing python crawled in front of Old Demon Wei and opened its huge mouth, preparing to swallow its former master into its stomach. Old Demon Wei waved his fist with a pained expression, bursting forth with his greatest strength. With the strongest fist of the 5th level of Heaven stage, a punch landed on the vital point of the azure-swallowing python. As its master, of course he knew its weakness. As the saying goes, a snake hits 7 inches. The 7 inches of the azure-swallowing python's vital point was under a scale that was almost indistinguishable from the rest of its body. That was the heart area, and it was also the only weak point in its entire body. Ordinary attacks had no effect on the azure-swallowing python. As long as the strongest and most penetrating vibration fist aura directly shattered the heart protected by the azure-swallowing python's scales, it would be effective. The azure-swallowing python let out a miserable hiss. It fell to the ground. Old Demon Wei, who had killed the azure-swallowing python with a single punch, didn't have a complacent expression. On the contrary, his face was gloomy, as if he had aged a few hundred years in an instant. He also knew that this azure-swallowing python was fake, but no matter how rational a person was, they couldn't deny its existence. This was because it looked like a living being. The painful torture has just begun. The humiliation, pain, despair, and so on that you have brought us, we will return it to you 100 times, 1,000 times. Yu Yang's voice rang in the ears of the master of Black Wind City and Old Demon Wei. When his figure flashed in front of them, another azure-swallowing python crawled over from afar. It was exactly the same as the azure-swallowing python that had fallen at their feet. Do you think you can deceive us with these fake things? Sect leader Bai Song was furious. My domain can interrogate your hearts. The fear in your hearts will be reflected through it. Even if what you see is fake, can you deny it? Look, what are you most afraid of? Yu Yang stretched out his hand and pointed at the master of Black Wind City. In front of the master of Black Wind City, a flash of light appeared, and a second Yu Yang wearing a Gemini mask gradually appeared. When Yu Yang pointed at Bai Song, what appeared in front of Bai Song was a woman carrying a baby. When Bai Song saw the woman carrying the baby, his expression changed drastically. The woman carrying the baby suddenly bled from her 7 orifices like a ghost. She screamed at Bai Song with extreme resentment, by Song, in order to succeed the throne, you married the sect leader's daughter. Not only did you abandon your wife and son, you even wanted to personally poison us mother and son. Even if we become ghosts, we won't let you off. Pang Man saw Yu Yang's finger pointing straight at him. Suddenly, his face turned ashen. His shoulder was patted from behind. The sky execution that he feared from the bottom of his heart was looking down at him coldly and mercilessly, like a god of death. He couldn't help but shiver in fear. Chapter 7:16. Bastard, you're fake. I'm not afraid of you. When Pang Man saw the azure-swallowing python under his feet gradually melt and disappear, he immediately became courageous. No matter how strong old Demon Wei was, it was impossible for him to kill the azure-swallowing python with a single punch. Besides, even if he could kill it, the azure-swallowing python wouldn't melt and disappear. Since the other party was a fake illusion, why should he be afraid of him? Boom! The sky execution's heavy punch landed on Pang Man's defenseless face. Pang Man was sent flying like an arrow. He spun in the air for 3,600 degrees, unable to stabilize his body in time. In the sky, a shadow quickly chased after him. With another heavy punch, Pang Man's injured face was ruthlessly smashed once more. It was only now that Pang Man understood a fact. The damn sky execution that had hit him wasn't fake at all. He wasn't an illusion, he was real. When Pang Man fell to the ground, he found a pair of feet standing in front of him. He looked up and saw that it was the sky execution. Before he could dodge, Pang Man discovered that the sky execution's foot had already landed on his seriously injured face. The pain reached his heart and lungs. The enraged Pang Man instantly exploded with all the strength in his body. He quickly reversed the situation and returned a heavy punch to the sky execution in front of him. The fist easily pierced through the sky execution's chest. He was completely powerless. Pang Man cursed in his heart. The one he had hit was an illusion, and he didn't know where the real body was. Just as he was about to retract his fist, a heavy fist aura with lightning struck his back, causing Pang Man's eyes to turn black and his spine to feel like it was about to break. Enduring the pain, Pang Man decided to leave the masked man's domain of fear. In this kind of domain of fear that interrogated people's hearts, there were countless illusions mixed in with the real body. Fighting was simply looking for trouble. It was fine if it was like that old fellow by Song who had killed his wife and children. After all, without his real body to cooperate with the attack, Bai Song would at most be sad. However, he was afraid of that fellow, Sky Execution. He couldn't figure out the real body or the illusion here. If he didn't leave, he would definitely die here. Pang Man turned around and saw the Sky Execution chasing after him like an arrow, his entire body flickering with lightning. When he sped up to escape, the space in front of him suddenly changed, turning into a huge mountain wall that was like an iron wall. Pang Man felt like a madman as he slammed into the mountain wall. Fake, fake, these mountain walls are all fake. Pang Man gritted his teeth and resolutely charged towards the mountain wall. Even if he saw the figure of Sky Execution flash out of the mountain wall, he would not retreat. The real Sky Execution was chasing after him. This was clearly the Black Wind City Lord's mansion, so where did the mountain wall come from? If it was a mountain wall, how could Sky's retribution come out from it? Boom! When Pang Man crashed into the mountain wall, he was punched in the face by the Sky Execution that he thought was an illusion. One of his front teeth was sent flying on the spot, and the other one was mostly broken. "I'm the real one!" God's retribution mocked mercilessly. "Stupid guy, your time has come. I'll fight it out with you." Pang Man pretended to be desperate. When God's retribution was in a defensive posture, he slammed into the mountain wall. It was impossible for there to be a mountain wall in front of him. Pang Man firmly believed this. Sure enough, the mountain wall was just an illusion. In an instant, Pang Man passed through the mountain wall. However, behind the mountain wall was a person wearing a Gemini mask. Pang Man didn't have time to retreat and was kicked back by the other party. When he fell in front of Sky Execution, he discovered that there were at least 10 shadows wearing Gemini masks in the surrounding space. Every single one of them seemed to be real. No one could tell the difference between a lifelike illusion and a fake one. Pang Man felt that he was in a tragedy. Why didn't the masked man look for anyone else but him? In terms of status and wealth, the master of Black Wind City was much higher than him. In terms of status and wealth, Bai Song was also far superior to him. In terms of strength, old Demon Wei was definitely at the top of the crowd. Why did the masked man and Sky Execution choose him as the first target? He wasn't the weakest. It should be General Jin Feng and Captain Lei Kai. Why was that? When Pang Man thought about it, he wanted to cry to death. He didn't know that he wasn't the only one. The master of Black Wind City, Old Demon Wei, Bai Song, Hoka, Savi, Lei Kai, and the other Heaven Stage warriors saw no less illusions than him, nor were they any weaker than him. Qing Song and Hong Song, who were the most unable to resist the mental illusions, had already been crippled by the Dragon Emperor and the Underworld Emperor. As for General Jin Feng, he had also been beaten to a pulp by Fei Huang and Hua Ban, who had returned after cooperating with the act. Fei Huang and Hua Ban realized that they were definitely not the first Heaven Stage warriors to surrender. There were also 3 very shameless fellows, all of them with the strength of Heaven Stage level 2, but they were always flattering Fatty Hai, who was not even as good as Nyo General at first. Fei Huang and Hua Ban thought that they were their companions, but they didn't expect that they were also captives who had surrendered. The 3 of them had already served for a long time. The pressure they felt towards the 2 of them who had just surrendered without making any contributions was obvious. If he didn't make some contributions, he wouldn't have a place to stand in the future. Listening to the words that the man wearing the tall hat had accidentally leaked, there was also a Heaven Stage level 4 guy. Because he had surrendered too late, he wanted to surrender now, but he hadn't obtained his consent yet. He was locked up in a very tragic place, probably worse than death. Fei Huang and Hua Ban swore to take down Jin Feng and make a contribution. Firstly, Jin Feng was the only one they could take down. Secondly, with this almost invincible domain, it would be difficult for them to not win. The only problem was how much time it would take to take down the enemy. Meow. Hui Tai Lang opened his bow left and right, his sharp claws flying, and the dark demon scythe on his tail wildly slashed, causing Hoka to be in a state of disarray. Roar, roar! The golden flaming lion, who had just joined and was eager to claim credit from his new master, had fought with Savi before the little panda girl, Nyonyo. He wanted to prove that he was the second most useful war beast. Of course, he didn't dare to compare himself to that abnormal divine beast Hui Tai Lang who had a grimoire. That guy wasn't a wolf at all, he just looked like a wolf. Lei Kai was scared half to death. He was almost instantly killed by Princess Sisai's Prison Emperor Divine Sword. Fortunately, at the most critical moment, he shouted, "I am the Dark Green Lord's man. I once opened the door to the dungeon for you. Captain Raging Flames can prove it, and your leader also knows." The Prison Emperor Divine Sword stopped at his neck, only drawing a red line. If he had shouted this sentence a tenth of a second later, then he would be dead for sure. In fact, Princess Sisai was also there when they broke through the dungeon to rescue Raging Flames, but she didn't see Lei Kai. This was because Lei Kai, the spy, was in charge of quickly heading to Black Wind City, hinting that the dungeon had been captured and Raging Flames had been rescued, causing the master of Black Wind City and the others to be shocked. It was also better for him to hide beside the master of Black Wind City and the others and obtain information. "I'm on your side." Lei Kai couldn't help but become anxious when he realized that the fatty had come up to beat him up after revealing his identity. The example is like this. Fatty Hai and the others rushed forward, surrounding Lei Kai and beating him up. They only stopped when they were almost beaten into a pig's head. Then, under the lead of Lei Kai, who didn't know whether to laugh or cry, they charged towards the city lord's mansion. Lei Kai took a step out of the void and realized that he couldn't see anything within 100 meters of the domain. As for the original city lord's mansion and the group of personal guards, they were completely at a loss as they looked at the strange domain that had engulfed all the heaven stage cultivators. Right now, they didn't know what was going on. Lei Kai vented his anger at Fatty Hai and the others on these personal guards and patrolling guards, starting a massacre. Storm. Xue Tan Lang activated a terrifying tornado and swept towards the city lord's mansion. Meteor descent. Prince of Tianluo also summoned a heavenly fire meteor and smashed it towards the guards who were preparing to shoot. Even more powerful than them were the members of the demonic palace. Sky Wrath, Sky Calamity, Sky Crime, Sky Disaster, Sky Fury, Sky Assassinations, Sky Sword and the rest of the demonic palace did not participate in the killing of the heaven rankers, because their main task was to destroy the city lord's mansion and all the defensive forces as fast as possible. The addition of Yu Bing, Inan and Fallen Flower's city lord was definitely the last straw that broke the camel's back. Especially city lord Fallen Flowers. Even if she didn't summon the Nirvana Sunflower of Heaven Stage Level 5, just by relying on the super speed of the Aurora and the Snow Fox Lady, who had already advanced to the Saint rank in the previous battle, she could completely break through the City Lord's mansion's resistance. Drunken Cat brought the little panda girl Nyonyo out of the domain and joined the battle. This was because she discovered that attacking the enemy in the domain was too easy, because the enemy couldn't tell the difference between the real and the fake. Within Yu Yang's creation domain, they wouldn't be able to escape the mind control of the false truth, which was equivalent to the gate of life. Dong dong dong. The heavens' wrath's heaven-shaking drum began to beat, shaking the heavens and the earth. However, an extremely beautiful sound of pipa music easily drowned out the soul-shaking sound of the heaven-shaking drum. It was like the sound of nature, floating in the air. It was also like the sound of large and small pearls falling into jade, tinkling and tinkling. Countless patrolling guards, as well as the loyal personal guards of the Master of Black Wind City, died unknowingly amidst the beautiful music. The merchants weren't the slightest bit worried about the attack on the city lord's mansion. On the contrary, there was a faint hint of joy between his brows. What did it mean to go to war? Well, no matter who was the ruler, taking over Black Wind City, reconstruction and repair were essential. All of these required money. Settling down the residents and absorbing the merchants' investment, tax cuts and other measures, this was also money. Loaning for compensation or exchanging the spoils of victory was even more of a huge business. There were many more. As long as there was a war, the bigger it was, the more money the merchants would make. This was a fact that had been forged since ancient times. Of course, this kind of war wealth required courage and luck in order to obtain it. Without courage, without luck, not only would he lose his family's fortune, he might even lose his life. When the merchants saw that the battle had only broken out in the city lord's mansion, the surroundings were very safe. They didn't even need to hide. They all watched from afar and discussed in low voices. Ah, a figure covered in blood flew out from that unknown domain. A strange giant wolf chased after it. Its sharp claws danced, almost tearing the bloody man covered in wounds in half. However, the bloody man endured the pain. The first thing he did was crush the teleportation crystal and use a holy shield to block the giant wolf's fatal blow. He instantly teleported away, not even caring about the holy shield. Among the merchants, there were some sharp-eyed people who could clearly see that the bloody man was the Master of Black Wind City. The Master of Black Wind City was also the only heaven stage cultivator who could escape. As for the others, such as Old Demon Wei, By Song, Pang Man, and the other Heaven Stage experts were still trapped inside, unable to escape. Black Wind ran away. This battle won't end in a short period of time. Things are getting more and more interesting. The merchants were very happy. It was not a good thing for them to finish the war. It would be best if they fought every day. Only then would the price of their goods rise and never be unsaleable. Raging Flames, it really is you. Old Demon Wei also wanted to escape, but his opponent had turned into a raging flame. He immediately despaired. Black Wind will avenge me. He's just a chess piece that I deliberately let go. He's just bait to catch a big fish in the future. Raging Flames laughed out loud and pointed at Old Demon Wei. Come, I'll give you a chance to fight one-on-one. Otherwise, you'll say that I'm bullying you with that brat. Old Demon Wei, to be honest, with just you alone, you're not worthy of being called a Heaven Stage Level 5 expert. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.